Calling to order the Monday, May 6th, 2024 meeting of the 40th Council of the City of Berkeley. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll.
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Black.
Here.
Mayor
Reporting
Pro Tem-
remotely from military duty.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Gavin.
Here.
Councilmember Hennon.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Vellani.
Here.
Mayor Dean.
Here. Our first order of business is the approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Support.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin with support from Councilmember Patterson. Are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll.
Black.
Yes.
Gavin.
Yes.
Hennon.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Vellani.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. The agenda has been approved. So this evening, in lieu of the mayor-led moment of reflection, I'm going to read a proclamation. Oh, actually, it's a resolution, sorry. A resolution of the Council of the City of Berkeley, Michigan, recognizing, wait a minute, sorry, false alarm on the Eagle Scout. I don't have the proclamation. Do you have one?
Is that the one?
Sorry. Thank you. Okay. A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkeley, Michigan, recognizing the first full week of May as a Public Service Recognition Week. Whereas the City of Berkeley is fortunate to be served by well over 100 dedicated individuals who bring their best each day. These unsung heroes, many of whom also call Berkeley home, do the work it takes to keep our city functioning because they choose to answer the call to make a difference. Whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. And whereas many public servants at all levels, including public safety officers, laborers, military personnel, healthcare professionals, and others, risk their lives each day in service to the people of the United States and around the world. Whereas public servants include not only government administration, but also teachers, doctors, scientists, safety inspectors, social workers, and countless other occupations. Day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And whereas, without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, the City of Berkeley proclaims, Section 1, that City Council shares its appreciation for the dedicated public servants who work hard to better our community and country, and announces and proclaims to all citizens that the first full week of May is Public Service Recognition Week. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on May 6, 2024, Bridget Dean, Mayor. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've now come to the first public comment section in our meeting, where you may present your thoughts on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Council members will not engage you in discussion, but that doesn't mean we don't care. If your matter needs some follow-up from a member of city staff or a member of council, there's a table right outside this door where you may leave your name and contact information. Please direct your comments to the chair. You have 3 minutes in which to tell us what's on your mind and in your heart. When you approach the microphone, tell us your name and city of residence.
Mayor Dean, Council, my name is Jason Benedict. I live in Berkeley and I walked here tonight. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about non-motorized transportation within Berkeley, and I'm here in support of it. I know we commonly hear about talks of road diet and the notes on that are commonly negative. There's an opposite side to that spectrum, and I hope you recognize that there's a lot of us out here who would really support better bike infrastructure, better walking infrastructure, just getting around safer for everybody involved. I'll be very brief tonight.
You have 3 minutes, you can do them all.
Thank you. I'm sure if you drove here or you walked here, however you got here, you saw many people on bikes. If you weren't paying attention, please do, because there are going to be more and more bikes as the summer comes along. E-bikes are becoming incredibly popular. They move very quickly, so again, be careful. You might recognize as you visit our neighboring neighborhoods as well, in the neighboring cities, they've put a lot of work recently into a lot of their infrastructure surrounding bikes. I'm thinking about Oak Park in Ferndale, which has some wonderful painting in there. Royal Oak has done some great work. And I want us to not be a drive-through city, right? One of the first things that we do when you hop on your bike, if you're in and around Berkeley, is to get out of Berkeley. And people who have bikes tend to have disposable income. We're in Michigan. It's very rare that somebody who's riding a bike as an adult does not have a vehicle. They're riding a bike by choice. They're going to visit some place by choice where they would want to go. We have wonderful places in Berkeley. Let's give them a place to go within our city. I'm working with the League of Michigan Bicyclists this summer to conduct an audit within Berkeley, and I'm looking for support, nothing major, and also from the community. I'm looking for a couple of hours from anybody who would like to be involved. I can leave contact details so we can get everybody involved. Just trying to have the conversation, what could we do better? And then in the future, we would come back to this forum or certain council members just to discuss opportunities that we could make to improve things for the future. So right now, I'm not looking for anything specific. I'm looking for engagement, so we can talk about these for the future. I also want to remind, this is my final point, the Michigan Shared Streets and Spaces Grant Program is open. The application program is open for another month. I don't know if we've applied for it. I really hope that we do. The Michigan Department of Transportation has set aside $3.5 million. That's eligible for grants. $200,000 is available if people just apply for it within our community. There is no match required. I hope that we're considering this. Even if it just results in one sign here or there, I think that would be helpful. Again, not looking for massive change overnight. I recognize that our funds are not where we all wish that they were. We have many, many competing priorities, and this is just one of them. But let's keep it in the back of our mind when we have things that are coming our way. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Whoever took a timer, thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Ms. Mitchell, have you received any correspondence to be entered into tonight's record?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have. Bruce Pope Berkeley sent in an email listing inquiries about the solid waste fund within the proposed City of Berkeley budget.
Thank you. I'm closing public comments now. Ms. Mitchell, please read the items on tonight's consent agenda.
1, approval of the minutes. Matter of approving the minutes of the 40th regular city council meeting on Monday, April 15th, 2024, and the special city council budget work session on Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. 2, ordinance number 0524, matter of considering the second reading and adoption of an ordinance to amend section 106-310A of Article 8 Parklets of Chapter 106 Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places of the Berkeley City Code to allow parklets to occupy spaces in front of adjacent businesses when they cannot be located in front of the primary business. 3, proclamation number P524, matter proclaiming May 14th, 2024 as Apraxia Awareness Day.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I got a chorus. Okay, motion made by Councilmember Henan, support from Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Any corrections or additions? Seeing none, Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Black. Black.
I think you're muted, Councilmember Black.
Yes.
Thank you.
Apologies.
Dean.
Yes, the consent agenda has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 1 on tonight's regular agenda.
Recognitions, presentations, matter of receiving any recognitions or presentations from the consent agenda.
Seeing none, please read item number 2.
Resolution number R-1024, matter of approving a resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, recognizing Eagle Scout candidate Jack Elliott for a gift to Berkley Parks and Recreation.
Is there a motion to approve R-1024?
So moved.
Support.
Made by Councilmember Valani with support from Councilmember Baker. Mr. Geinzer, do you have a kickoff for this, or are we?
No, not for this one.
Okay.
I can kick
Mr.
off.
McMahon.
Yes. So we have our Eagle Scout candidate, Jack Elliott, with us tonight. He gifted 2 benches that we put along the sidewalk on Robina in the community park complex. So we're here just to show appreciation to him for his gift. And he can come on up and you guys can ask him some questions if you like.
Perfect. And I've asked Councilmember Valani to read the resolution in your honor. So, Councilmember Valani?
All right. A resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, recognizing Eagle Scout candidate Jack Elliott for a gift to Berkley Parks and Recreation. Whereas Jack Elliott, an Eagle Scout candidate in Berkley Troop 1085, worked with Parks and Recreation to create a project and offer additional sitting areas to Community Park and to the City of Berkley. And whereas Jack worked over the course of several months to identify a recreation need in the community and fundraised money to be able to offer the additional seating area. And whereas Jack raised the necessary funds to construct 2 park benches to be placed along the sidewalk near the Berkley Community Center and Community Park. And whereas Jack and his troop, Troop 1085, worked together to safely and professionally construct these benches on April 6, 2024. And whereas the benches at Community Park will add additional sitting areas for community to utilize while enjoying one of Berkley's parks. And now, therefore, the City of Berkley resolves, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Berkley appreciates the effort, hard work, and professionalism that Jack Elliott displayed in constructing and placing 2 new park benches at Community Park. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, May 6, 2024, by Bridget Dean Mayer.
Well done, Jack.
Hey.
Thank you.
So, any discussion from council on this agenda item?
I just have one. How did you raise the funds?
I put out a Facebook post and then collected bottles and returned those.
Well, thank you for this.
As a, well, not as a Boy Scout parent, but as a Girl Scout parent, I know how hard all of the scouts in our community have to work, but also to raise up to this level and accomplish what you did is amazing. And also collecting and returning bottles is not an easy way to fundraise, so there is a lot of effort that went into that, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
Well, I've been a fan and friend of Troop 1085 for a while, and I've been invited numerous times to come and have conversations with you guys. The last time, I think it was the rights and responsibilities of the individual per the U.S. Constitution. Yeah, chew on that. But I will say, 1085 gives great engagement. I know you're happy to be part of that group. There always seems to be a lot of support from parents and from scouts with each other. And I'm grateful, Jack, for your efforts in improving our Parks and Rec department with these benches. And I wish you much success in your next achievement in scouting, whatever that is. I don't know, have you peaked? Is this is Eagle Scout the thing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been on ya. Thank you so much. Would you mind just coming around so we can all shake your hand?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, sure. The green light's on there, I don't, oh, look at that.
Congratulations.
Great. I didn't.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, I should. Any public comment on this agenda item? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Oh, wait,
I'm
sorry.
going to jump in real quick
Yeah.
and just once again say thank you very much to Jack for all of his hard work. He was not only professional the entire time, he knocked out those 2 benches with his troop members within a couple hours on a Saturday. So I'm thankful for how quickly they worked because I was here with them. So very thankful again, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on R1024.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker, Black,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the resolution has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 3 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M3824, matter of authorizing special land use approval from applicant Christina Del Pizzo for the occupation of 1818 Mortensen to be used as a family daycare home for 7 to 12 children in the R1D Single Family Residential District on the east side of Mortensen, east of Princeton.
Is there a motion to approve M3824?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin
Support.
with support from Councilmember Hennan. Mr. Geinzer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Director Kapolansky will go into a little more detail to introduce this item. But as you all know, we have received a special land use request to place a child care home within a single-family district. They're specifically looking at a child care center of 7 to 12, which has a little bit different set of standards. Just as a reminder, I think as council knows, but just as much for those in the public, we have received a number of comments and questions, and there is a part of me that really misses that.
I know, right?
But we have a set of special land use standards that we have to follow when we are considering an item of this nature. Regardless of the level of comments that we get, it's important that we have all this information, but we do have standards that we do have to follow and make those decisions on. So Ms. Kamplansky is here to help you through that. And also we have our city attorney, Ms. Christ, who is also here from a legal standpoint. I would just recommend, especially as we go through an item that has such level of interest, that we are using those resources to make sure that we handle this matter appropriately. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Kapolansky.
Thank you. It's good evening, Mayor and members of council. I come to you from the dais this evening since we're in a bit of a packed house.
There you go.
So I will skip over the very introductory comments about the number of children and the location and jump right into the things that I wanted to point out for you specifically from my review. So as Mr. Geisner stated, this is a special land use for 7 to 12 children. And in our zoning ordinance, those are subject to a number of standards that are listed, 5 standards specifically, that are gone over in my review letter. The state planning enabling legislation says that we have to consider daycares for 1 to 6 children and 7 to 12 children as permitted uses in single-family districts. There is a little bit of a distinction in the number of children there because for 7 to 12 children, we can make that a special land use, but it is still considered a permitted use. So something that I really stress to the Planning Commission and I want to stress to the council this evening is we're not here thinking about whether this use is appropriate in single family in general because the state has said that it is. I would defer any more specific questions to our city attorney if you want to get into the specific legislative requirements. But I will briefly just touch on the standards that we here have in the city of Berkeley. So as I mentioned, for all special land uses, there are 5 standards that you need to consider. They're enumerated and listed in my approval memo as well as in the staff report, and I provided analysis for each. It was my recommendation that this particular request meets all of those standards, and I can answer any questions you have about why I determined that if you would like. The Planning Commission is required to hold a public hearing and make a recommendation to this body. They held the required public hearing. They did not have a full board at that meeting, so it was postponed to an additional meeting that was held in April. And at that particular meeting, they heard additional comment and ended up recommending denial by 4 to 3. And that is included in the meeting minutes that were provided in your packet. They listed a specific reason for denial that was related to the special land use standards. It's been a little bit of time since we considered a residential special land use. So again, I just want to emphasize we need to look at both the zoning regulations and then also at the state law in this particular case. And I would request that any motions you make for either approval or denial, if you could enumerate exactly which special land use standard would apply in that particular case and make some findings of fact related to that, staff would much appreciate that. And I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any public comment on this agenda item? Please state your name, city of residence.
Good evening, Richard Rassel, 380 North Old Woodward, Birmingham, Michigan. Mayor Dean, members of the City Council, I represent the applicant in this matter, Ms. Del Pizzo, Little Seedlings of Berkley. We appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. We did, of course, put together a letter that was dated April 29th of just a week ago, which we delivered to the city, attention to all of you, and it outlines the basis upon which we think we meet the city's special land use criteria. Ms. Kaplinsky's correct. This is a permitted use under the state ordinance regulations, but relative to how it operates in the city, due to the fact that we are proposing between 7 and 12 children, it may be considered as a special land use in the city of Berkeley. We concur with staff and its February 14th memo that we meet all the criteria for the grant of a special land use approval from this city council. We met extensively with the Planning Commission. They gave us a tremendous audience and did a thorough job of listening. At the first meeting, of course, as Ms. Kaplinsky indicated, there was not a full enough body to obtain what looked to be a divided vote, so we waited until April. We made a full presentation, and we're ready to make a full presentation here this evening. And the purpose of that, of course, is to focus on the evidence and not, of course, what somebody or even, and respectfully, members of the public might think might be happening relative to the neighborhood on Mortensen. Little Seedlings of Berkeley is going to be a copy, in fact, of 6 exact facilities that operate in our area. 3 in Bloomfield Township, 1 in Grosse Pointe, 1 in Beverly Hills, and 1 in Livonia. And those facilities operate with a licensed facility, with a licensee occupied residence, and they exist with no negative impact on the surrounding area. You'll note that staff observed, and we highlighted in our letter to you of April 29th, that the staff observed that with regard to other facilities like this throughout Berkeley, there is no impact with regard to traffic, parking, or safety. And that's the experience you're going to hear tonight from the actual residents and from those who actually operate these exact facilities who operate in our local neighboring communities. That's because we have between 7 and 10 children, but the hours of operation are only between 7 and 5 p.m., and the drop-off and the pickup is staggered throughout the day. You might have a car an hour. There are no parking issues. There are no traffic issues. And the properties, from a safety standpoint, from a health, safety, and welfare standpoint, are perfectly kept up. These properties have to be this way. The state inspectors, and you're going to hear from Ms. DePizzo in a minute, the state inspects these properties on a very regular basis. Not only do the properties themselves have to be immaculate, but the operations have to be perfect. And that's because children are here, and they're here for daycare. And they have to be, as the licensing requirements of the state of Michigan require, taken care of to the 10 out of 10 level. And you're going to hear that that's the experience of the neighbors and the communities that Ms. Del Pizzo operates, identical facilities throughout our area. You're also going to hear from Ms. Del Pizzo in a moment about the need. This is not a need in a shopping type or convenience type setting. This is a public need for licensed quality daycare facilities that operate in the areas that we live in. There is a need in Berkeley, there's a need in Oakland County, and there's a need in our general community. And for that reason, and because we don't, in any of the other communities, nor will we here, have any negative impact on any of the surrounding areas. And in fact, we will provide a positive impact here. And Ms. Del Pizzo will speak to these issues. And from the testimony you're going to hear tonight and that the Planning Commission entertained, I think you will find that the criteria has been met, as staff suggested, for this very benign public need use in a residential neighborhood for which the state of Michigan has designed that it is appropriate in a residential district in your R1D district. And this facility is going to be, again, I just want to emphasize that Ms. Del Pizzo will introduce Shelby to you in a moment. Shelby's here. She has her infant. I mean, she was in the front row a minute ago, but Shelby is the licensee. She has an infant. She will reside in the property, and she's the primary person under the State of Michigan Licensing Authority who will be taking care of the children at 1818 Mortensen. She has helpers, and some of those folks, one at a time, will be in the home with her, taking care of the kids during those licensed hours. You're also going to hear from some other licensees who operate some of the other Little Seedlings business operations that exist in other neighborhoods identical to this neighborhood in the surrounding area, and their experience and what it's like to work for Ms. Del Pizzo and Little Seedlings and the need they provide in the community. I'm happy to address any of the legal issues, but they really derive from your own understanding of your own ordinance. And again, we concur with staff's recommendation, and we respectfully ask that you approve our request this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
This is Ms. Del Pizzo.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Christina Del Pizzo, 299 Orange Lake Drive, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. I just wanted to kind of share with you how Little Seedlings came to be. I was a teacher, a second grade teacher at Detroit Country Day School. I was at the top of my game, prized teaching position. I was a runner-up Michigan Teacher of the Year, a 40 under 40 in Oakland County. I was on top of the world as far as teaching goes when my child's daycare closed on a Friday and said that they were never opening again. So I had to look for childcare, and I couldn't find it. There's a huge lack of childcare in our area. Every place that may have had an opening wasn't awesome, and every place that was awesome had a wait list years long. So I had to make the decision, as many moms do. This is really like primarily a mom issue, to leave my job and to stay home with my child. And I had a lot of colleagues in a very similar position. So I got licensed and I opened up a home child care, and we filled up immediately. And I brought in another teacher from Bloomfield. She was a Bloomfield public school teacher. And then we started to get calls from moms looking for child care, but our capacity was filled. So we decided to open up another one, and that's how Little Seedlings of Beverly Hills happened. A requirement of opening a home child care is that you have to have a licensee there. So Little Seedlings has filled in two needs. One is a housing need for teachers who are traditionally underpaid, and then also a need for moms in the community to find quality licensed child care. So all of our homes, we offer our licensees free housing. We pay for the mortgage, we pay for the utilities. It's a benefit of their employment. We have very low turnover and very dedicated staff. So that's the story of how we came to be. In the Planning Commission meetings, one of the concerns was safety, because the neighbors were concerned that there's a safety issue because we're on a boulevard. And I just wanted to point out that in the city of Berkeley, we're in a child care desert. That means that there's not enough child care in the area. For every one opening, there are 3 children that are looking for child care. So that forces moms to make hard decisions like I had to. And oftentimes that decision is to put their child in an unlicensed child care situation. And if you watch the local news, which I'm sure you do, I'm sure you've heard of the the issues in a child care in Dearborn where a child found a firearm in unlicensed daycare and shot another child, or in Garden City where a child was injured in a dryer because it was an unmonitored, unlicensed, unsupervised child care situation. And again, these moms just didn't have another choice. So today, on the first day of Teacher Appreciation Week, our Livonia location got a knock on the door from licensing. It was very timely, and licensing shows up unannounced. And I'm really very proud of our all of our facilities because they have they were able to pass their licensing inspection without an error, and licensing comes and their job is to to tell us what we're doing wrong, not what we're doing right. So it's really a feather in our cap that we have so many licensing reviews with perfect licensing reports. Just to kind of give you some perspective on how stringent Michigan licensing is, and if you have chipped paint on the exterior of your house, that is a licensing violation. If you don't have a top to your garbage can, that's a licensing violation. The houses need to be cared for really impeccably to not have these violations. So we take licensing very seriously, and this is the Little Seedlings has a strong philanthropic thread. We pour our profits back into the teacher salary so we can retain these amazing women, which you'll hear from, and then also in our facilities so that they are safe and they are quality places for these little ones to spend their days, 8-10 hours a day. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Del Pizzo. Is there any public comment on this agenda item?
Hi there, my name is Michaela Charfris. I live in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. And I am one of the directors at Little Seedlings Child Cares. I actually met Christina years ago in 2017 when she was first opening her child care. I was nannying down the street and she needed some help opening up her new child care. So lo and behold, I met her and I kind of worked for her on and off through the summers as I was getting my degree in elementary education. 3 years, fast forward 3 years, I taught virtual kindergarten and I needed a change of scenery. So I came back to Little Seedlings where I was a licensee for 2.5 years at our Beverly Hills location. And I was able to live there for free while I was, figuring out the next part of my life, which I am really grateful for. And now as we've grown, I've stepped into this director position. And one of my parts of my jobs is to manage enrollment for each location. Each location, we have a wait list that has at least 60 families on them. Our Beverly Hills location has the longest wait list that has over 130 families on it, and people get added to that literally every single day. When families ask me what number they are on the wait list, it pains me to tell them that there's at least 60 people ahead of them, and it might be a year or two before we even contact them again. Since word has spread about a possible Berkley location, we have been getting online inquiries, phone calls, emails every day asking when the new location will be open, will there be a spot for their child or children, and if not, can they join our wait list? Some parents even message us before they're even pregnant because they know what a hard task it is to get into childcare. We also have families who are on the other locations wait list and asked to join the Berkley one as well. Some of these families have been on these lists for over a year. We hope to bring a safe and loving quality childcare to Berkley and decrease the number of families that have to choose unlicensed daycares as their childcare option. Another part of my job as director is to make sure that anything needs attention at the house gets done. Whenever something needs to be fixed, the licensee will come to myself, and then I report that to the next person that needs to know, whether it's Christina or a company that needs to come out, and it gets fixed quickly, if not almost immediately. The upkeep of these houses are part of our Little Seedlings reputation, and in turn, mine as well, and I'm proud to be part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Garnett, my 908 St. Clair in Grosse Pointe. I am one of the licensees. I came here a little over a year ago, from Alaska. I was a director at a child care in Alaska for 5 years before I came. And there's a huge difference between family child care and a director at a center. I raised 4 children. I homeschooled for 10 years, and then my kids went to public school, very successful. And after directing a daycare for 5 years and seeing all the challenges that had, staffing, wait lists, all these things, I was excited to get back to working with kids. That was my passion, my dream. So when I met Christina online, looking for something like that in Michigan, and she told me her model, I was ecstatic because I just wanted to get back in with kids and be doing what I love most, which is working with children. I've been able to move into the home there in Grosse Pointe. This has been a huge blessing, living there rent-free, being able to focus on my kids. We have 12 kids now. Like she said, there's a huge wait list. We're like a family. It's not, unheard of to have a family of 12 children. It's not common, but it's not unheard of. And they do become like our family. And we have parents who will ride their bike to pick up their kids in their bike trailer. We have parents that come down in their wagon to pick up and drop off. So it's a very community neighborhood feel. And they're so thankful that we're right there, close by their houses. They don't have to drive, so far to get them. And we've just loved it. Michaela's always there. If I need anything, she'll come and support me. We have people to help us with subbing, because of different staff. And it has been wonderful. Seeing the difference of kids in a small setting like that has been great versus a really large environment with large ratios. So, I've just loved it. I think it is great for communities and families. So, appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yes, I'm Robert Faust at 1885 Mortensen Boulevard. That's diagonally across from where this house is on the other end of the block. We have, submitted 2 petitions with about 50 members, people that don't want it in our immediate area. And I just went out the other day and collected another 28 on Saturday. Okay? And I've talked to more than 100 people between Henley and Cass and 11 Mile and the area up by the school, okay? None of them, after hearing an objective assessment of what was going on, wanted this daycare there or thought it was a good location because of Mortensen Avenue and the intersection with 11 Mile, both during the school year, during winter months, and during snowstorms and in bad weather, okay? Mortensen is a 15-foot wide street each way. When the snow comes, and if there's any significant amount, you're gonna get up to a 24-inch pile of snow on the curb. No one is gonna be able to get over that pile of snow and drop their kid off or park there, because nobody on the lower end of Berkley, where it's a double lane wide with a boulevard, willingly parks there unless they absolutely have to, even in good weather, okay? You get out of the car, open the door, if you're on that street, you're immediately faced with another vehicle. There's no width at all, okay? And on Princeton, you've got the experience of 25 feet. you take away 4 feet, and if you end up with 2 vehicles parked on either side, you can barely get through that street. The intersection during the school year in the afternoon backs up past Princeton. People are so anxious to leave, they turn down Princeton by this particular property, and they don't turn slow. They're turning at 15 or 20 miles an hour, okay? Because anybody knows that lives on Mortensen, people never drive the speed limit of 25 miles an hour. It's at least 30 or 35 miles an hour on that street.
Mr. Faust, you got about 15 seconds.
Okay. So that's the main reason why this is not a good site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olivia Hack. I currently live at 2866 Acorn Road, and I'm the licensee of the Little Acorns location. I have been working for Christina for a little over 4 years now. I am so thankful and honored to have the opportunity to do what I do and live the way that I live while trying to get on my feet. Not only do I get to live in a place that I work for free, but I'm able to welcome children here daily, and not many people are able to say that. I have made this my community for the last 2 years, and have become to cherish it. I graduated from Rochester College in May of 2020 with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. Being it was the middle of a pandemic, I felt lost, and I was introduced to Little Seedlings, and it has forever changed my life. Christina and Marco have been nothing but caring and trusting when it comes to the upkeep of my house. Whenever I need anything fixed, they are both able to come quickly and fix with whatever I need, or would help with whatever I need fixing. I couldn't be more thankful to do what I'm able to do, and none of it would be possible without their help. I'm forever very blessed for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I'm Carly. I live at 2051 Cass Boulevard. Been here almost 32 years, raised my kids here. And this location, when I thought about it, it's fantastic. I mean, the people are wonderful, starting businesses. I'm a business guy. Awesome, providing. This is a terrible location for this. My kids, we have had close encounters. My kids have had cars that have been hit by other people, plowing through Princeton, not stopping at the sign. I've seen so many different things. I've walked around this neighborhood literally for 30 years, street by street, enjoying the relatives. It's great that they got a business. I'd encourage them to find a place on 11th Mile like everyone else, get a business location. This is a residential area. I just want to encourage it. It's not right for Berkley. Consider that. Those of us who are residents here want everyone to be safe and keep this fully a residential, not a business side. And regarding the snow, we got to juggle cars around all the time just to get them. You got to move them off the street for the snowplow to come through. This snow place even staggered for kids to be coming on and off, being let out, especially precious little ones like this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I am Christine Bivens. I live at 3688 Darcy in Bloomfield, next door to one of Christina's locations. And the reason I came tonight is hopefully to quell any fears of, local neighbors and all of you with safety issues, traffic issues. I've lived next door to this location for 4 years. It's an immaculate property. The neighbors are absolutely wonderful. If anything, I feel safer living next door to a child care facility, knowing that there's eyes on the property. People are more careful when there's kids around. And also, like, my husband and I both work from home. I've never had a noise issue. I take my daughter to school every day, never have traffic issues. When my husband came to the first meeting and told me about this, I felt compelled, like, I have to come and talk to you guys, because I really do think it would be a shame if this, as everyone has stated, childcare is so important, and it would be a true shame if this wasn't able to happen, because I've never once had an issue. My neighbors are amazing, and I'm so impressed with the whole business model. So,
thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Amanda Polk. I live at 3299 Buckingham in Berkeley, and I am a Little Seedlings family at the Bloomfield location. So we drive 20 minutes down down Woodward to go to the Little Seedlings location that we are at because there is no viable childcare in the Berkeley area, which is such a shame. I have been nothing but impressed by the Del Pizzos and their ability to create a safe space for children. My daughter has thrived both socially, emotionally, intelligently, all the above. She's been great there, and it's thanks to Christina and the people that she hires. As far as any of the issues that are being brought up, I believe that those feel a little bit more personal and a little bit less about what this is. And I think it's important to remember that this is a childcare location that's going to open regardless. It's going to open for 0 to 6, or it's going to open for, you know, the rest of the way that they're able to do so. So I think we need to remember that this location is here to better the Berkeley area and hopefully improve the childcare situation for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Polk.
Hi, my name is Maureen Stides. I live at 2175 Cummings Avenue in Berkeley, and I'm also a Little Seedlings family. When I became pregnant with my son, I immediately got on some lists, which provided no movement for me. And when he was about a year old, really starting to think, what am I going to do here? The place that I contacted in Berkeley, Berkeley Building Blocks, I was 90th on the list when I finally got into Little Seedlings. So there's 90 other families before me, and there's really not a lot of options in this area. And I looked kind of everywhere as far as Troy, downtown Detroit. I work at Children's Hospital of Michigan, where I'm a manager of child life, volunteer services, spiritual care, and ADA translation, and I've been there 17 years. So the work that I do is really important to me to be able to service our community at large. Without Little Seedlings, I'm unable to provide that service and continue to mentor other people helping our families. My son also receives early on services from Berkeley for a speech delay, and he's unable to receive those at the Beverly Hills location because it's in Beverly Hills. So luckily my mom does help with that, but opening up a Berkeley location would really provide some consistency to be able to, for him to go to daycare every day and then also provide those services. The Beverly Hills property is maintained beautifully and clean. All staff are respectful to neighbors. We have, you know, when we come and it's been snowing, that driveway is already snow shoveled for us. So we don't have any issues there. And also our drop-off times are staggered. So we don't have all 12 of us coming at one time. We come up in the driveway, you know, 5 minutes in, come on out, and then we're headed off to wherever we're going that day. I live down the street from Quality Roots, which is another new business here in Berkeley, which I didn't plan to live by. It wasn't, you know, a thing when I bought this house. And it's very, very busy. There's cars parked all the way up our street. The parking lot is always full. This small daycare is going to have far less traffic than Quality Roots. And like I said, we use the driveway for drop-offs. Of course, there's a certain amount of change that we can expect with a new business or any new changes in a community, but I think this will provide a much-needed resource for the families of Berkeley and worth those potential changes that might occur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Baranski. I live at 1833 Mortensen and have for the last 20 years. One of the reasons that I bought where I did is I wanted to live in Berkeley more than I wanted to live in Royal Oak, and I wanted to live in a residential neighborhood. So that's why I chose where I did. Those of you who know our part of Berkeley on Mortensen on the south side, it's pretty dense in terms of population and lot density for houses. I don't deny that there's a need for daycare. I don't deny that they provide it very well. I just question if this is the best location, especially for up to 12 children. I think under 6, it's a slightly different conversation. So that's 12 kids, 12 individual pickups and drop-offs every day. I'd like to think they will come in wagons and bikes. Berkeley is a very walkable, bikeable community. I'm not sure I see that happening. I visited the other locations, the 3 in Bloomfield and the one in Beverly Hills that they mentioned. Those houses are very different in terms of frontage and location and where they're placed. A lot closer to major thoroughfares, a lot closer to other businesses, as opposed to in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I question some of what they're saying about the location being impeccable. The lawn was cut, I think, for the first time today, and there are 7 industrial-sized trash bags filled full of trash on the sidewalk on the Princeton side. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Baranski.
I'll try to not reiterate some of the things that have already been said, but I think it's important to underscore
your name and
oh
city
God,
of
I'm so
residence.
sorry.
That's okay.
Emily Smith. I live 2 doors north at 1852 Mortensen on the same side. I think it's important to note that this isn't about the character of the people who own, run, work at, utilize, or live at these locations for Little Seedlings. It's also not just about the national daycare crisis that we all know exists. It's about the specific decision against the specific criteria at this specific location. And I think that's really at the crux of where the Planning Commission had their debate and ultimately recommended 4-3 not to pursue. So I appreciate all that they've said about how they follow all the licensing. That's important, but that's Laura's business, not the criteria of the decision today. And that should be table stakes. Any daycare should be following those things. So I commend them for doing that. I know it's not easy to do. I also think, based on the overwhelming voice of the residents, it's the expectation when we moved into this neighborhood in Berkeley, that many of us have lived there a decade or more, that we wanted to live in a residential area and not next to a business. This isn't a philanthropy. It's a rinse and repeat business. That was the words that the owner used previously. It's a really smart, well-run rinse and repeat business. It's a really smart business model, but I just don't think that this location with the small frontage and the very, very small driveway that is the only place someone could park, which just last week somebody was parked right across the sidewalk, which I've actually never even seen, even with the people that had owned the house previously. So I think, we've talked a little bit about safety, but Mortensen is a raceway. Since the road diet, which I have no issue with, otherwise it has created a lot of speeding people on that road. Regardless of your decision, there needs to be a safety plan for families getting in and out of their cars. I won't get my kids in and out of the car on Mortensen during those peak times with people going to work, lots of kids trying to get to the high school on time. That's a fact. And I think to say that, maybe it's 6 families, maybe it's 12, who knows, will have no impact. I don't know how you could factually say there would be no impact to residents. You could debate the impact, but I don't understand how you could say there would be none. I know there's concern about property values. It's hard to find data on that. But I would encourage, let's stick to the criteria. It's not a character trial here. Everybody's doing what they think is right, and I think there's some very strong arguments why this is not the right location with the frontage and driveway situation that's available. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Hi, my name is Shelby Matuski. I would be the licensee at the Little Seedlings of Berkeley, living at 1818 Mortensen. Formerly, I was the licensee of Little Seedlings of Beverly Hills, and I truly love this company. It has given my husband and I a place to live where I can work and not have to commute to work, and now we have a safe place to live with my newborn baby. We are not living there yet, as the Del Pizzos have been doing wonderful remodels on the house to make the house perfectly capable to care for 12 children and the backyard. We are looking forward to meeting the neighbors and being involved in the wonderful community. I'm so grateful to Christina for giving me and my family this opportunity for me to have a job that I adore and my family a place to live. The Del Pizzos take pride in their daycares and have always taken care of the lawn and all the house maintenance and any issue that we've had in a very timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matuski. Any other public comment?
My
name's Brad Davis, and I live right next door to the property. And I'd like to reiterate, I don't want to reiterate everything everybody said for your time's sake. I just, as Emily stated, I feel the exact same way. I am a public school teacher. I respect teachers more than everybody. I mean, I have a 4-year-old. I understand the daycare issue. I understand all the things that are going on. I also heard a lot about moms trying to find everything, but us dads have concerns too. All that to say, I really do think that we need to go back to the criteria. There's a reason we went in front of the Planning Commission. We stated all these things. We did it twice. We were there for a super long time. And there's a reason they came to the 4-3 conclusion based on the approval and the land use. And as she said, when you choose to live in a certain location, whether it's close to a main road, whatever, you understand there are things that are going to come. And being directly next door, that's not really what I had planned. So I would just really encourage, for the safety of the kids that are going to be moving here, Emily and I both have small kids. We don't put our kids in on the road on Mortensen. It can be a raceway. I just would ask that we look at it, like she said, for the same reason the Planning Commission did and ultimately said no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Hi, my name is Evie Sonnenberg. I live at 3974 Buckingham. My family has been a Little Seedlings family. We've lived in Berkley since 2020, and we chose Little Seedlings because we could not find daycare anywhere in Berkley or anywhere in the surrounding areas. And I couldn't be more grateful that we have the opportunity. It's been an incredible experience for us as parents, and for my son, has grown leaps and bounds, and we just feel so grateful that he's in their care every day so that my husband and I are both able to work. I was at the Planning Commission meeting last month, and I understand that this property is a permitted use for 1 to 6 children as an in-home daycare. So regardless if there's 6 children or 12 children present at this location, the concerns are still going to be there, and those concerns have been vetted and alleviated because it's already a permitted use in the zoning ordinance. So this really isn't a matter of whether the daycare is going to open or not. They are going to open, and they're going to provide impeccable care to their families and to this community. They're going to be outstanding neighbors, and they're going to be an incredible asset to our community. So the question that we should really be asking ourselves is Berkley going to allow the opportunity to provide 6 additional families reliable, safe childcare? Or are we going to continue forcing families to find childcare outside of this wonderful city that we call home? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sonnenberg. Any other public comment? Nope.
My name is Amanda Bylan, and I'm at 38038 Livonia Ross Street. I'm the licensee in Livonia, and I truly love this company and being a teacher at the Livonia House. I've been licensee at Livonia for almost 2 years and have almost worked with Little Siblings for almost 3 years. I am so thankful and honored that I get to work with children and be able to live at a place where I can focus on my future and get to watch children learn and grow every day. The DePizos truly help whenever they are needed and truly make everyone feel welcome. The homes in the Livonia neighborhood are very close to each other. Since purchasing, the DePizos have made numerous improvements, including a privacy fence so that the neighbors do not have to see children's toys in the backyard and to allow the families in the neighborhood's privacy. We have an abundant amount of children in the neighborhood. The DePizos care a great deal about the home and how it is maintained, and the house looks like an ordinary house from the outside. I really enjoy the atmosphere of the in-home daycares. The in-home daycare setting really allows families and the teachers an opportunity to develop deeper relationships with the families and the children. A lot of the children at the Livonia House have been at this location since they have been babies, and it has allowed for myself and the teachers to truly get to know the children and develop and build trust with the families, the children, and the teachers. The in-home daycares have allowed me an opportunity to feel excited and honored that I get to come to work every day and work with a group of women who truly love the children and take pride in helping the beginning years of the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, I'm closing public comments. Oh, Mr. Geinzer.
Yes, just to recap. with all the public comment that you've received and as you enter into deliberation, I just want to summarize the choice and discussion tonight is not whether or not you can open a daycare at this location. The state has said that a daycare is allowed in a residential use. It doesn't matter if it's R1 or R4. It's allowed in a residential use. The question that you're considering tonight is whether or not to issue a special land use that would allow you to go from, or the proprietor, or the operator of the home, the person that's living in the home, can bring in that additional, let me do my math right, 1 to 6 children into that home. Your deliberations is whether or not they've addressed if these 6 criteria can be met in order to issue that special land use. So I just wanted to, again, make sure, especially for the public's benefit, that there's not a decision here on whether or not there's a daycare at this site.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Discussion from council. Oh, Ms. Mitchell, do you have any public comment to be entered into the record?
I do not.
Thank you. Discussion from council. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, first I do just want to reiterate that we wouldn't be here if the state hadn't foisted this upon us. You know, it's just like all the other unfunded mandates. They get sent down to us, and we, you know, rather than leaving things to local control, we're, you know, left holding the bag. I came tonight trying to say yes, trying to find a way to say yes, and couldn't get there. There's 2 criteria, but I'll just emphasize the public safety issue, and specifically loading and unloading. There's no place for off-street loading and unloading. And the 2 things that really sealed the deal for me is one of the current users saying how they drive into the driveway to pick up and drop off their child. And also, when the petitioner was addressing the safety issues at this location, she didn't address the safety issues at this location. She instead discussed how other facilities may be unsafe. So no one has addressed the safety issues of dropping off, loading and unloading on street. And that is what unfortunately gets me to a no. We need more childcare, but this is not the location for it.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council? Councilmember
Go ahead.
Patterson.
I agree with my counterpart here. I reviewed, obviously, Planning Commission. I'm the liaison, former Planning Commissioner. I reviewed the standards. I can't find them either. I agree with the Planning Commission, recommendation for denial. The 4th one standard, the proposal to use designated so that public health, safety, and welfare shall be protected. I also cannot find that to be met. It does not promote the safety and welfare at this location. I agree, we need daycare. Lots of families struggle with it, but this location I don't think is right for it.
Thank you. Councilmember Vellani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also agree with council members Hennon and Patterson. As a parent who went through daycare for many years, and as someone who lives right around the corner from where this daycare is going to be, I know just how busy Mortensen is, as whenever I have to drive downtown to work, I am driving right by that exact intersection. Also knowing how long it takes to put a wiggly infant or child into a car seat, strap them in safely, when it's only 2 cars can get through and you are 1 car with a door open, it's blocking all traffic on that street there, which is an issue. And as a parent, it would cause me a lot of anxiety, struggling to get a child in and out in a quick speed, without backing up traffic. And so for that reason, I also agree that it's just the location and the availability of safe places that won't disrupt the flow of traffic in an already very busy location. It doesn't feel right. And I also have some concerns with the model of the permanent residence. I don't know if Attorney Christ, this is something that you can comment on. It doesn't feel like a single family home. Like, what would happen if that employee was terminated or decided to leave the position? Does that create then a gap where this is no longer a licensed facility because the resident is no longer running the business.
In answer to your question, I don't know that I can speak to the licensing issue, but I would think that the licensee would be similar to a tenant, that the Del Pizios would be the owners of the property, and then they, I'm sure, have a landlord-tenant agreement with regards to their licensee. With regards to if the licensee left suddenly, and whether the daycare could continue, I believe that would be something that would have to be addressed by the state. I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you.
Oh,
if I may.
yes.
We're sharing microphones here for a while until we figure out how to work all that stuff. I likewise have concerns about that. I do appreciate the need for additional childcare. And it does make me happy to know that we have at least an opportunity for a small step forward with the 1 to 6, as stated by the state. And I appreciate the way you framed it too. It's yet another good news, folks, at the local level. I was curious too about, it was mentioned a couple of times, not only the permanent occupant, presumably they're going to have at least one car, if not two of their own, that they'll need to park in the small driveway. There was also the notion of teachers that were brought up, and I was curious if there was going to be additional adults or licensed teachers in addition to the permanent resident, which would require additional parking for more than just a drop-off and pick-up kind of thing. If we're going to have some teachers there for some duration, that would add to a bit of the parking concern that I was just thinking about. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. If it really is just the one person there that gets to the pleasure of taking care of all these kids, or if there's other help, where's that help going to park? Those kinds of things were just something I was curious about. So that's where I'm at on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question. Since Ms. Del Pizzo won't be living in the residence and the licensee is technically the tenant, would the Del Pizzos have to register as landlords in the city of Berkeley and then have landlord inspections and,
Yes.
follow that? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Clarence. Sorry, Councilmember Black.
Yeah, thank
Sir.
you, Madam Mayor. So, I do want to echo the same thing that Council Member, Henning said. It's an unfortunate mandate from the state, an unfunded mandate. But for me, as a parent of 4, and having gone through the daycare issue, and having been a daycare participant myself, growing up with a single mom who struggled to make ends meet, man, the need, we get it. I get it. I come back to this though. Yes, there's a need. Yes, I think that there is, while the state has said that we can do it, I come back to what I wanted near me, if it's just as a resident, and the answer is no. And I keep coming back to that, that if I wouldn't want to live next to a daycare, then I don't know in good conscience that I could approve it for someone else if it's not something that I want. So that will be the main motivation for my vote tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M3824. Oh, sorry, yes.
I think we need a more solid motion.
Okay, so who would like to make a motion also indicating,
Well, remember, you have a motion on the table, so it needs to be a motion to amend.
okay?
Okay. I'll make a motion to amend to deny, based on the finding of facts, that there is no room for off-street loading and unloading, making criteria number 4 not met.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, Councilmember Patterson. So,
Actually, the motion maker should make the amendment.
it,
I would
Yes.
accept his motion.
You can
That's fine.
accept it.
yes. Thank you. We good? So please call the roll on M 3824, but it's amended, so.
We can confirm for everybody, including ourselves, what is a yes and what is a no.
Yeah, it's a motion to deny, correct?
So a yes would
Well-
deny.
Yes is deny.
If I can make a suggestion here,
Perfect,
for the
yes.
sake of simplicity, I would vote on the original motion because your motion was to approve a special land use. So let's scratch all this stuff. Let's vote on the original motion, and then, depending on the outcome of that, then offer a new motion, and that should simplify everything. So
Yes, perfect. Okay, so.
I think if you call the roll on the
Yes.
motion that was just made, no action, it fails for if I'm doing that right, it will fail because you don't have enough votes.
Sure.
Then you go back to your first one, then do your new one. Does that sound right, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not a parliamentarian.
Well, yeah, so we are voting on the original motion
It's on the floor.
that's on the floor, previous to the amended version from Councilmember Hennon.
Yes, and.
Yes.
Okay. As long as you're
Councilmember Hennon can retract.
Okay.
So,
So I'll retract.
thank you. Retractions all around.
Robert's rules.
Okay.
Right.
Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M 3824.
Patterson,
No.
Valani,
No.
Baker,
No.
Black,
No.
Gavin,
No.
Hennon,
No.
Dean.
No. The motion has failed.
Right. Do you
Now a
need
new
me
motion.
to restate it?
Yes.
Okay. I am motion to deny the special land use based on the finding of fact that there is no room for off-street loading and unloading, and therefore criteria for public health, safety, and welfare is not met.
Support. So now we vote.
Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. The motion was passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 4 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M 3924, matter of approving a one-year contract extension of the 2021-2024 bargaining agreement between the City of Berkeley and the Michigan Association of Public Employees, MAPE.
Can we pause for like 30 seconds?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, yeah, somebody could have this one.
Testing.
Coming back.
Oh, there you go.
That's already.
That sounded good.
What, our infrastructure doesn't work?
Special though?
Crazy. Shocking.
Way to clear a room.
Y'all should get
Yeah.
special awards for
Yeah.
hanging around this long.
I think the Boy Scouts have to.
They're getting credit for
They're getting
this.
credit for that.
All right, we ready?
We're ready.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Clear out.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
So we're just waiting for it to quiet down just a little bit. So
we need a motion to
On the floor
approve.
to discuss. Were you gonna discuss for?
I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody watching. I'm used to a little bit of a different process. This is my first meeting, so thank you for your patience.
Is there a motion to approve M 3924?
so moved.
Support?
Motion made by Councilmember Patterson with support from Councilmember Valani. Mr. Geinzer.
I'll get the hang of it. All right, so thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is a contract. Really, it's an extension, a one-year extension with our Michigan Association of Public Employees Union. This union represents our Public Works Division. Currently, this bargaining unit represents 11 current positions. And this agreement was expected or would have expired at the end of this fiscal year, so in June. With some of the transitions going, there was a determination made by the previous administration that it's probably in our best interest. Let's just extend this. We had a lot of good amendments made in the last contract. Let's extend it. So really, this is the same agreement. It's just looking at a wage increase of 5%. All the other terms are consistent from the last agreement. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We also have our Public Works Director here if there happens to be any more specific questions than that.
Okay. Any public input on this agenda item? Discussion from council?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M3924.
Valani.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Gavin.
Yes.
Hennon.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 5 on tonight's agenda.
M4024, matter of approving the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Berkley and the Michigan Association of Police, MAP, Berkley Police Service Aid Association.
Is there a motion to approve M4024?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Baker with support from Councilmember Valani. Mr. Geinzer.
Yes, thank you. Again, this is for the approval of a collective bargaining agreement. This one is a little bit different because this is a new bargaining agreement. This is with the Michigan Association of Police. This is our Berkley Berkley Police Service Aid Association. So this represents our dispatchers as well as our animal control officer. Previously to this, those employees fell under our merit system. This contract essentially mirrors what was outlined in the merit system, so a lot of the parameters in which they worked under are still consistent. However, for the first time, we do have a consistent and set wage scale. And the other thing that this agreement does is it starts to bring us to a position where we have a cost share on health care with our employees, which is something that we will be continuing to work on with our merit system and our other collective bargaining units. With that, this does represent 9 full-time service aid positions as well as up to 3 part-time positions as well, with 2 of them currently budgeted with only 1 filled. I think that outlines most of the report. If there are any specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer those for you.
Thank you. Public input on this agenda item. Discussion from council. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M4024.
Baker.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Gavin.
Yes.
Hennon.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Valani.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 6 on tonight's regular agenda.
Motion number M4124, matter of approving the Berkley Dads Club opening day parade on Saturday, June 1st, 2024 at 10 a.m., beginning at Berkley High School and concluding at Community Field Number 1. Approval is conditional upon the submission of required items and documents before the event date.
Is there a motion to approve M4124?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin with support from Councilmember Black. Thanks. Mr. Geinzer.
Okay, I am not overly familiar with the city's civic event application process, but I will do my best here.
Sure.
This is a annual request by the Dads Club for their parade. To my knowledge, everything has been submitted, although there are a couple outstanding items that do have to be addressed. Everything is outlined within your packet as far as their application is concerned. If there are any specific questions, I don't know that we're going to have the right people in the audience to address, so I'm always willing to come back with additional information if necessary.
Thank you. Any public input on this agenda item? Discussion from council. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to help with confidence in this, certainly we've seen this agenda item for many cycles now, and we appreciate the work that the Dads Club does, and we're looking forward to another safe and successful parade.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Councilmember Black.
Yeah, I just want to, it's been, my math, make sure my math is good. 11 years since my son has participated, and it is one of my favorite events in the year. So I just encourage everyone, whether your child plays dad's club baseball or not, just get out there. It's an amazing event, and it seems like it gets bigger every year with more and more things that the dad's club adds to it. So, whether or not you have a little leaguer playing, that morning, just get out there. They do an awesome parade, and it's a lot of fun. So I just want to encourage people to get out and be a part of our community.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M 4124.
Black,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 7 on tonight's agenda.
Resolution number R 1124, matter of approving a resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, accepting the interlocal agreement for local fiscal recovery fund distribution between Oakland County and the City of Berkley.
Is there a motion to approve R 1124?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Patterson
Support.
with support from Councilmember Hennon. Mr. Geinzer.
Yes, this item is not the first, it's not the first time you've seen this item before you. This is a clarification of a contract, but I'm going to ask Public Works Director Young to come and walk you
Thank
through
you.
this a little bit further.
Mr. Young.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you recall, back in fall of 2022, we actually received a local critical infrastructure grant from Oakland County. It's $100,000 matching funds. They put in 100,000, we put in 100,000 for our CDSMI, which is the complete, CDSMI, Complete Distribution System Materials Inventory. So that's finding, taking our records that say you have a lead water service or a copper water service, and then we actually go out and physically excavate and compare those two, and they should match. If they don't match, we've got problems, but they should match. We're doing pretty good. Part of that was we had to sign the agreement and accept the funds. We did that in 2023. It was April of 2023. They've since amended the agreement, so they asked us to come back and sign an updated agreement. Nothing else has changed. It's still the same grant, same funding. It's just the agreement has changed a little bit. We are most of the way through the work that we can receive our money, so the $100,000 grant will receive most of that funds almost immediately. We've been working on it for a couple of years, so we're quite a ways ahead. There must have been a big push for this because it took a long time to get here. As far as with the county and getting things situated, it was a long road.
Well, thank you for hanging in there and for your patience. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any public input here? Discussion from council? Okay. Ms. Mitchell,
No, sorry.
Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on R 1124.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. R 1124 has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 8 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M 4224, matter of awarding the contract for the Coolidge Highway Crosswalk pavement marking improvements to the lowest qualified bidder, PK Contracting LLC of Troy, Michigan, an amount of $53,580.50. In addition, allocating an additional 10% construction contingency, $5,358, and a not-to-exceed construction engineering amount of $7,200 for a total not-to-exceed project cost of $66,138.50. Projected cost of this project will be split with the Berkley Downtown Development Authority, account number 248-902-972-200, covering up to $44,312.80 of the cost, in the City of Berkley, account number 202-475-818-200, covering the remaining $21,825.70.
Is there a motion to approve M 4224?
So moved.
Oh.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Baker with support from Councilmember Valani.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, I'm going to ask Public Works Director Young to come up to walk through this item for the public's benefit. Mr. Young, if you could, I know we had some questions that came up about what the actual scope of work is, so can you make sure you walk council and the community through kind of what is happening with this project?
So this project, we have the Coolidge Road diet that some people love, some people hate. We had the Coolidge Task Force. This project takes a little bit of what that task force came up with and implements that. It's mainly a striping project. We're restriping the intersection markings, long lines, bike lanes, changing the parking. Right now, they're long parking stalls. These will have individual spots that should help maximize parking to, people will know where they can park, where they can't, and try and share the space. The biggest change will be the transition on southbound Coolidge. Right now, the transition is south of 12 Mile, which can get confusing for some folks. It'll move north of 12 Mile. The far right lane will turn into a right turn only lane, which would have proper signage. And then just south of 12 Mile, there'll be some plastic bollards that we're gonna put up. They won't be crash rated, they're just plastic delineators. I should call them delineators, not bollards. It's more of a physical obstacle that a driver's gonna see and know that they need to make that transition before they get through the intersection.
Thank you. Any public input? Discussion from council.
I just
Councilmember
want to say
Patterson.
that I'm glad that interchange is changing and for the better for sure, because a lot of times you have to race off that light. Well, you don't have to. I don't. I've seen other.
Wow. It happen.
Wow. I've watched other people race off that light to try to cut me off. I'm glad that that's changing. I think that's a huge improvement.
Agreed. Thank you. Councilmember.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, this so this has been discussed for several cycles, several years at the DDA board meetings as well. This is the continuation of the work that we saw with the bump outs for the crosswalks on Coolidge. This was originally part of a single package, and due to timing and funding and contractor bids and things, the DDA recommended with the city to split this into two pieces, and this is the second of those pieces. And so clearly testified, I too look forward to not seeing that speed race there as people try to cut in, because it creates a lot of safety hazards and things. Partially, it's folks that just don't know. They may not travel this part of town that often, and so having the additional signage and the striping will help with that. Sometimes people do know, and they like the adrenaline rush. You can kind of tell. And so I'm glad that this is going to continue to make things more safe. The business owners certainly commend the additional clarity in where the parking spaces are along Coolidge. Without a doubt, this project has added more parking to our downtown, and by having the spaces delineated, you'll avoid some of those folks that might inadvertently consume more space than they need. This will help maximize our utilization and provide that many more customers and visitors to enjoy our downtown. So I'm very excited about this continuation of the project.
Thank you. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, particularly with the lane changes north of 12 Mile on Coolidge, when do we anticipate that happening, and will we be doing any sort of public education so people know it before it just shows up?
Well, it'll happen, we don't have a schedule yet or when they would actually come out and stripe. This is a pretty tough one to get. Striping, this company does striping for all of Southeast Michigan. Wow. So you're put on a list, and it's not always where you want to be, but they get here eventually. They also do our long line. We do a cooperative contract through Oakland County RCOC for our long line. So typically Coolidge would have been part of that project with 11 Mile, Coolidge, not 12 miles, not ours, but some of those roads. This same company would be doing this work, but it'd be at a separate time. So the signage would go in at the same time. We could probably do some sort of, I don't know if it's driver education, but there'll be advanced warning signs before you get to that. So there'll be signs on the road that's right lane ends ahead, right turn only, so you'll have that signage. We could probably get the Berkley folks to learn it real quick. It's gonna be the outside people that they're not gonna see anything we put out, and that's the ones we're gonna have problems with.
And maybe if we find out generally at least a couple of weeks or a month, put up one of our temporary signs that traffic pattern changing soon or something, whatever.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll have a pre-construction meeting before they go out to make sure everybody's on the same page, and that's when we get our timeline.
Councilmember
Oh, yeah,
Baker.
thank you, and I do appreciate the desire for communication out to the public. And this is on the DDA's radar, as mentioned, as part of their conversation, and they have their marketing machinery primed and ready to go as we get closer. Just as we've discussed, we're waiting on the exact dates and things, but this is high on their list to not only promote the additional safety that this brings to the downtown, but also creates that driver awareness that we'll see. And we can't reach everybody, but they have their span of coverage is pretty impressive.
Mr. Geinzer?
Just to manage expectations, there will be communications going out, and we will talk about this at our staff meeting. But having worked with this company before, and to Director Young's point, most times when the striper's coming in, it's days' notice, not necessarily weeks. So there might be weeks where we're planning and making sure we got the plans right and we're all on the same page, but when the actual schedule hits, it's usually not weeks in advance. So just to be clear, as soon as we know, we'll get something out there that work will be happening. But I just didn't want somebody to leave with the wrong impression.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council? No? Okay, Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M 4224.
Hennan,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 9 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M 4324, matter of considering a license agreement for a municipal parking lot at parcel number 4-25-07-478-042 Garden Central.
Is there a motion to approve M 4324?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Baker
Support?
with support from Councilmember Hennan. Would you like me to toss this directly to Ms. Campolansky?
No, I'm going to start.
Oh, all right, okay.
I'm not going to
Just
give it up
checking.
that easy, but so this is a first for us. Director Kapolansky will walk you through how we got here. But in particular, again, much like the prior item, we did get some follow-up questions from that. Kristen, if you can just make sure we walk through those and make sure the audience understands kind of where this is at, why we're doing it, some of the expected costs, and the benefits to this project. So with that,
Yes,
please.
absolutely. So I will start at the beginning. If you'll all remember, last year, the council accepted the results of a parking study that was done by Fishbeck in conjunction with the DDA. And there were several different recommendations that were outlined in there. And one of those recommendations was that given the fact that a conservative estimate for parking lot cost for the construction is $20,000 a space, that does not include land acquisition, that one of the ways we could expand our municipal parking without acquiring land and also not absorbing those construction costs is to work on license agreements for the public use of private lots. So that is what is before you this evening. The owner of this particular parcel actually approached the city and asked if they might be interested in something like this. So it was very fortuitous timing, given that we had just approved that parking study. This particular area was identified in the parking study, in fact, this particular lot, as a target area for where we should do this public-private partnership. It's several blocks away from any other municipal lots, and the idea of the parking study was, if you'll recall, it showed that we had an adequate number of spaces in the downtown, but they weren't necessarily in all of the right locations, as I'm sure all of you can attest to in your various travels around town. So this helps to fill one of those gaps. It would be the first one, as I had said. The staff worked with the city attorney and the property owner. There was lots of back and forth and attorney things on what should be included in the agreement, but what it ultimately allowed in exchange for public use of this lot is that the city would perform the maintenance of the lot, so that would include snow removal and regular pavement maintenance. And then we would also suspend property taxes and stormwater and sewer charges. Now, without some numbers tied to that, which was one of the questions that we got, that becomes a question of whether there is indeed a benefit to doing this. So keep in mind that parking lots are $20,000 a space to construct, and this is what the city would be foregoing in taxes and stormwater services. $450 a year in taxes. Stormwater service and sewage charges to be waived would be $690 per year.
And then initial investment costs on bringing the parking lot up to par would be not to exceed $7,500. That would be for the first year of maintenance. Maintenance costs for weather and things like that would depend on the season. So it's really a little bit harder to quantify those. A couple other things that I want to point out. The initial term of the agreement is for 5 years. Then it would automatically have 1-year renewals. And then as far as the additional questions, we talked about the taxes and stormwater and maintenance costs. And I think that I've covered everything. So I'm available to answer any questions. Director Young was a big part of this as well, so it was kind of a joint effort. I'm just here presenting for the group, so he's available for questions, I'm sure, too.
Thank you. Mr.
So
Deinzer.
I always like to emphasize, like, when something looks like it's a good deal for taxpayers or the council. So to do the math, I was just counting what looks to be pretty close to 20 spots in this space. And at 20,000, you're at
That's too much.
400,000?
Yeah, that sounds right.
400,000? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, $400,000 investment for us to build a parking lot, not including acquiring property, which I'm assuming property within the downtown area of Berkeley is not inexpensive venture. So with that, we're ready to answer any additional questions.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? Discussion from council.
I thought he had his hand up.
Councilmember Black, do you have your hand up? Did you? Do you want to say something?
Yeah. So from a revenue standpoint, do we have anticipated revenue in terms of, I mean, obviously this is not going to be free parking, right? So have we determined rates, hourly, by the half hour, kind of like they do in some of our neighboring communities where you can just use the app?
So the city of Berkeley does not have a paid parking in the city. So if you were to do that, it's something you would have to roll out to the entire community that you would address everywhere. This will not be a paid lot.
It would be a charter amendment. I believe it's in our charter that it's free parking, so.
I'll defer to you on that.
Well, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's in the charter.
Yeah. Any, Councilmember Baker?
Thank you. And yes, as stated, being in the charter, it'd have to go to the will of the voters to vote, and I'm not sure if that would be a successful campaign. I know the DDA is also very excited about this opportunity to have additional parking in a part of our downtown that doesn't have much municipal coverage that benefits the whole area. You know, there's several fantastic businesses in immediate walking vicinity of this parking lot. So I think that's fantastic. And kudos to our staff, excellent work and partnership, and to the property owner for taking the initiative to bring this to us so we can think about this. If we were to move forward with this, what kind of time frame, given that there's minimal constructive costs and things, would it just be a matter of putting up the signage and getting the word out, say, hey, good news, you know, that kind of stuff?
It would basically be striping. We have to restripe the lot and signage. First thing we have to do is agree on what type of signage we want to put there, just a standard municipal lot. It'd be nice to have some sort of logo or something on that to pretty it up a little bit. But it should be rather quick. Signage and striping like that is pretty rather quick to do.
Nice. Now, the prior conversation, we talked about striping and painting using the contractor. Is this something that we could handle in-house, or would we need their services to help with the striping as well?
This is something we would plan to do in-house.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure, thank you. And I think in terms of the signage, there is the wayfinding standards that have been set forth throughout the downtown, and I know we're working to try to get that further into the community, so perhaps we can leverage some of the existing logos and branding that we've rolled out elsewhere that may be helpful in drawing a positive attention to this spot here too. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one
Councilmember Patterson.
I just have one question about the parking. So does the business still have like reserved parking, or will it be all of those spaces will now go municipal?
All of those spaces would be municipal.
Thank you. Easy question.
Any other discussion from council? Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M 4324.
Patterson?
Yes.
Valani?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Hennon?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 10 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M4424, matter of reaffirming the City of Berkeley's participation in the Watertowns Grant Initiative and providing related staff direction.
Is there a motion to approve M 4424?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gavin
Support.
with support from Councilmember Patterson. Mr. Geinzer.
Yes, thank you. The item before you this evening is something that a couple of you may have seen, but they were before City Council back in December of 2019 to look at a more regional approach to promoting clean stormwater throughout the Clinton River watershed. Back at that meeting, the City Council did adopt unanimously a resolution to participate in water towns. The reason this item is before you is because the Clinton River watershed is getting ready with the Water Resources Commission of Oakland County to submit a multi-million-dollar grant application to the EPA. We recently got an update on this initiative, and essentially what they're doing is they're going around trying to affirm participation in this grant with all the partners that were involved back in 2019. Just to reiterate, this grant, if they were successful, it would not require any sort of financial match on the city's standpoint. But I want to make sure everybody understands that this would become a city asset that we would be required to maintain, which, again, we're not nervous about it, but there is maintenance that comes with a stormwater management, whether it be a bioswale or a rain garden or what have you. The other thing I just wanted to note is, yes, the Water Resources Commission will be taking the lead on administering this grant, so they'll handle all the reporting and all that, but our staff will be needed at the table to help facilitate the implementation of these projects. Lastly, the reason this is before you is I don't want to assume that we're still in a position where we want to do something that we talked about 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And the primary item that I want direction on or need direction on, should you want to participate in this, based on some of the needs in the city, based on the fact that some of these, I don't want to call them technologies per se, but we're still getting our arms wrapped around how we maintain these things and how they operate. I think there's an opportunity here, and I would recommend that we consolidate the focus of our participation in this grant to a couple sites in particular. Again, this is just one person's perspective. I would put our number one priority on the community center parking lot, as we've had some recent questions on that, but that is a need in the city that we need to fix that lot at some point. That is a reconstruct. It's not a repave or a maintenance like we're talking at the library. That needs to be completely redone. If we can leverage a grant program to have that reconstructed and make it more environmentally sustainable, please, I'm all in, right? The other one that seems to make a lot of sense is the JC Park, because it's a focused area. If you're going to use it for education, we've got two highly visible areas, and the one at JC Park, you're looking at multiple types of treatments, from parking areas to also stormwater detention or retention, rain gardens in the park area itself. So with that, what I'm recommending tonight is to reaffirm resolution R40-19, and if you happen to agree, to direct us to focus our attention on the Parks and Recreation parking lot and JC Park. If you don't concur with that, please just give us the direction that you would like us to pursue, and if there's other projects that we'd like to have considered. With that, happy to answer any questions. I know Director Young and Director Kapelansky were a part of some of these conversations. Well, no, from a planning commission standpoint, you may have had some involvement, but Director Young was definitely at the table for that process. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any public comment on this agenda item? Okay, discussion from council. Mayor Pro Tem Gavin.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I'm still in full support of the initiative as a tool to help mitigate stormwater runoff into the system, especially through using GSI or green stormwater infrastructure. So, I remember working on this previously, certainly with the city manager as well as Dr. Carpenter from Drummond Carpenter. on places in the community where the GSI best fits. I'm fine with the more targeted approach. I think that makes sense, although with the understanding that, we continue to look to further expand opportunities down the road, especially the Griffith Avenue parking lot, which I think are kind of ripe for this kind of work as well. So, but in terms of the targeted recommendation, I'm all for that as well.
Thank Councilmember Patterson.
Yeah, I just have, so with this grant, like, just thinking about the community center, if and when there's a new community center there, what happens with the grant if we have to rip out the parking lot? I know that was an issue before with the tennis courts.
So, not presuming that I know everything that was discussed prior on community centers and relocations of office buildings and what have you, not office buildings, but city hall and all that. Based on my understanding of past discussions, it's my understanding that lot that I'm talking about, which is the north side of the community center, you wouldn't be impacting that. If there was to be work or expansion or what have you, it would go to the south where the ice arena used to be. So I think this particular investment would be safer. Now, obviously, that's probably something that we might want to go back and look at a little bit more before they're designing things. But our main reason to bring this forward tonight is in the application, to be able to tell the folks that are going to be designing these things and what have you, we would like to have a bigger, better impact in fewer places than try to do a scattered approach and do it a little bit everywhere. That's the best answer I can give you tonight, Councilmember Patterson. And
the other thing, if we have to update this, J.C. Park has changed names now.
I'm sorry.
No, it's in the documents that they sent, but it's been updated.
Since this.
Yes, I saw that somewhere else, so I will maybe put that in your motion, but I think we all know where we're talking about.
We do.
Except for me.
Yeah, but now you do.
Yes.
Councilmember Black.
Yeah, you mentioned that the WRC is going to front most of the admin, but that our staff needs to have that seat at the table. Is that going to be in lieu of or in addition to their current duties? So, is this going to cost us anything in terms of time or overtime for the staff or be any kind of administrative headache for them?
So I'm gonna ask Director Young to come up, but while he's doing that, we're managing projects all the time, right? And in this particular case, from a project management and implementation standpoint, that impact is gonna largely, and correct me if I'm wrong, is largely gonna fall on kind of the administrative level staff. Where I think there could potentially be some impacts as far as scheduling time is going to be on training and things like that. So if we're going to put staff into a training on how to properly identify native plant species and how to weed a rain garden and all the maintenance requirements, while they're doing that training, they're not going to be able to do whatever it happens to be. So we're going to have to schedule it. Anything you want to throw in there?
I think you're covering it pretty well. I mean, there's going to be some of our time involved, just talks with WRC, what exactly we're getting, what do we want as a community, what does this mean for maintenance, how much time is going to be involved in this, and is our staff equipped to do this? If not, we'll have to send them somewhere to get that training to be able to maintain these.
And again, that's another reason why I'm hoping we can consolidate this a little bit, because as we're learning and gearing up for something, again, I'm not a director in Public Works, but if we can focus our training efforts and learn a site before we're trying to learn 10 different sites, because each one of these treatments is a different type of maintenance. Maintaining a rain garden is very different from maintaining a pervious parking lot. And there's pros and cons to some of the other items that are in here that I'm not confident we have fully vetted versus something like a rain garden or something like that. I feel more confident in a treatment of that nature.
And speaking of that, like a pervious paver, our sweeping operations, it requires a different type of sweeper. It requires a vacuum sweeper, a straight vacuum, not a regenerator, not a mechanical, a straight vacuum sweeper to remove that sediment so that water can infiltrate through. That's not a piece of equipment that we currently have. So something like that would take a little more, either we'd have to contract that out or look at a different style of sweeper to be able to handle that.
Which is a part of future budget discussions that we're going to want to have as we're going through capital improvements, that if we want to do something different in the future, we should be making that commitment earlier and making those planning decisions and budgeting decisions as we're thinking about replacing equipment.
Yes, thank you. Any other discussion from council? Councilmember Hennon?
Yeah, as we were talking about permeable pavement, when I've looked into it for Berkeley, it probably doesn't work for the most part because of our clay soils. You have to do some significant engineering underneath to capture the water. Otherwise, you're just putting, you know, a nice layer of permeable something on something clay that's going to hold the water. So, you know, that's one part of it that I think makes sense not to do. My biggest concern is what will the ongoing maintenance costs be, both from a dollar standpoint and a time standpoint, and if we can commit those resources. So I guess one part of my question is if we say yes to this, are we committed, or is there going to be a second chance where once we have a firm idea on what those costs would be before they go forward with the installation?
So to that question, we can always tell them, no, you're not working on our property. And what would happen then is those dollars would end up going to another community. So there is time that we can pull a little bit more of that information, but it's going to be very difficult to quantify how many hours and what are the costs going to be to maintain a rain garden, for example. We can get close, like if ultimately the grant dollars allow for some sort of pervious pavement at the Parks and Rec, for example, we can have some discussions about, well, we're going to need to vacuum sweep this 4 times a year at X number of hours or what have you. But on a rain garden, it's going to be a little different because that first 3 years roughly is going to require intense maintenance to make sure that the undesirable stuff is not finding its way and getting established in there. You have to stay on top of invasive seeds and things that you don't want in there. So that first 3 years, it's going to be intense. Are there ways that you can offset that? Probably, but it requires training and time. Only reason I say that is I've seen it, and I've seen people try to maintain a rain garden that were not properly trained, and the contractor had to come out and redo it. So,
yes.
Long answer to a short question.
Councilmember Black?
Oh.
Yeah, so Nate and I guess Director Young too, do we have the right people in place for this? So Nate, to your point, you just stated it beautifully. You know, this is going to be very intense. How are we assessing the people that we have? And Director Young, do you feel like we have a team that can execute this? Or do we need to look at getting people, because again, we need to get this right?
So we have awesome people, as far as I can tell from the people that I've met. It's less about the people that we have versus how are we going to invest in these people to make sure they're equipped to manage these things. I think we also need to determine too, particularly from these 2 projects we're talking about, not knowing enough about this community yet, is this a Parks and Rec maintenance item or is this a DPW? There's a lot of ways that we might be able to get creative with a maintenance agreement as a part of how this all works. And if we can assign 1 or 2 people to work alongside the contractor that's installing, and ultimately maybe the first year or 2 has maintenance in it, which we can communicate that through our expectations of, if you're going to do this here, as you put it out to bid, we want our folks to have access to learn how this all went in, and we want our folks to have access to some maintenance training, and then ultimately hand it off to us. I think that's one way we can address Councilmember Black's questions. Director?
I think you hit it right on the nail right on the head. That's exactly what we need. I mean, we're there when they install it, we see what they're doing, and then when they come out for subsequent maintenance, there's someone there with them that's sitting or standing side by side with them, learning that.
Yeah, we can teach anybody to do anything. We just have to take the time to be and invest in their learning.
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for bringing this to us. I do like the idea of standing in solidarity with our neighboring communities to help provide a strong signal to those, at the higher levels, state and federal, that this is important to the region, and we care about it here in the city as well. So I think the signaling and the value is definitely there in doing this kind of thing. And to your point about the specifics of these projects and the fact that we have little to no direct experience with a lot of the techniques we've talked about so far, I'm thinking, it's new to us, but it's not new to the world, right? So rain gardens have been successfully installed and maintained. With a little bit of work, we can find it and talk to the right folks. Talk to your peers and other communities that have done this, and as Nate described, come up with an approximate idea, and then we'll learn as we go. So I'm confident that we have the information is out there for us to go into this with our eyes wide open and be comfortable with whichever projects we choose. And to that point, I was just curious, is tonight's vote to signal our intent to continue the discussion, or are we now voting on these two particular projects? Meaning, is this our last chance to have the dialogue about how this would be used and that kind of stuff?
I think there's an opportunity to talk through things a little bit more, but this application goes in, like, I was asked to give them an answer last week, and I said, well, I've got a council meeting on Monday. Let me talk to them first. So
application require an enumeration of the projects, or that we'd intend to participate, details forthcoming?
Yes.
Okay.
But having some clarity as far as, do we want to have these 5 items as a part of this application, or do we want to signal that we want focused on these 2 projects and we want better, more thorough investments versus a little here and there?
Yeah.
That I need to articulate, because that will be detailed to some extent. What the actual scope is and the designs and all that will come later.
Excellent. I support that.
And if I could, just one more quick thing, as you reminded me, whether you knew it or not, as we're adding these new things for our staff to maintain, just keep in mind, to Councilmember Hennon's point earlier that I think he was getting at, is there is only so much capacity within this organization. So as I heard earlier, we want to do more of these rain gardens and low impact design and green infrastructure. We need to be ready that there will be a point where we hit a threshold and we need 2 more seasonals, or we need another laborer or 2. All of these things add up, and that's just something to be conscious of as we continue to go through with budget discussions now and into the future.
Thank you. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, and to that point, one thing I'd like us to consider is volunteers. Now, I would want us to budget assuming nobody volunteers. But there are people that would, I think, love to help if we would be able to facilitate that. And so,
yeah, if we had, I'm going to say 2. If we had 2 trained staff people that could work with a group of volunteers, totally agree. I think there is an opportunity there.
yeah, and we already have the beautification committee that
I see one in the front row right here.
that does a lot of that, and the environmental committee too. Yeah, so we already have a couple committees that do that sort of stuff from time to time.
Thank you. Councilmember Patterson.
Oh, that's all right. Go ahead. I just had a question about Parks and Rec. So if we envision this Vision 1 and Vision 2, it's removing parking spots as well, correct? So like the Vision 2 here, option 2, that's 14 spots that it's going to take out. Am I reading this correctly?
Yeah, and depending on version 2, there is quite a few parking spots that we removed.
And Vision 1 has 10. So what is the implication on, that's already a very congested parking lot at times. Should we consider?
That will be a detail that we're going to want to take a look at. And again, if I learned anything in the last couple of weeks, and we talked about earlier, there is a premium on parking at some of these facilities, and we will want to look for a design that maximizes both. Maximizes the number of parking spaces we get while maximizing the stormwater impact that we can mitigate.
So if we say, yeah, go ahead at Parks and Rec, it might not be either one of these options?
Those are conceptual from 4 years ago, so I would say that, especially given what we're hearing, we're going to want to talk through a little more as far as what the specific scope would be.
Thank you.
And Parks and Rec would be involved in those conversations. Ultimately, it's their building, their lot that they're utilizing, so they're going to be a very big part of that.
Mayor Pro Tem Gavin.
Yeah, just one comment on, and it kind of loops together a lot of the comments that have already been made, but I think making sure that we utilize subject matter expertise. I mean, we're members of the Clinton River Watershed Council. I mean, this is certainly not a new concept to the council itself, so making sure that we incorporate that into whether it be, potential future design, what that looks like, volunteer, just general subject matter expertise. I think it's smart to make sure that we utilize that as well.
Councilmember Hennon.
Yes, and just briefly addressing the parking issue, I observed that as well, but my thinking is usually the Parks and Rec, it seems like it's partially full or it is just overflowing to capacity and people are in the neighborhood anyway. So I think the loss of those few spots for this benefit is okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council? Okay, Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll on M 4424.
Valani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes, the motion has passed. Ms. Mitchell, please read item number 11 on tonight's agenda.
Discussion, matter of discussing with possible staff direction the fiscal year 2024-25 and future City of Berkeley budgets.
Thank you. Before we even jump into this, I just want to be abundantly clear that we as a council absolutely do not believe that there is any malfeasance going on with any of the city's budgeting practices or funds. Just because someone is loud and angry doesn't mean that they are right. And the goal of our discussion tonight is to increase communication, give direction, and continue to better our budgeting practices. So with that, Mr. Geinzer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council, again, on this last item tonight. There are a few things. I won't read through the whole report, but I will just point out a couple goals of this discussion and really use this to articulate to the council kind of what you can expect while I'm here. There are going to be times when I'm going to ask or put something on the agenda for a discussion purpose, whether that's on the regular agenda or as a part of a workshop. The reason for that is when you get to an item that is large enough or have as much policy implications, that really needs to be discussed at the council level. I can appreciate getting individual questions and comments from each council member, but ultimately for a city manager or for staff to maintain their sanity, we have to have aligned direction from the council. Now, sometimes that's going to be 4 council members are going to say this is the direction we want to go because that's how the math works. And sometimes everybody's going to be on the same page. Yep, this is what we want. And we don't always need a vote on these things. Sometimes it's me or staff. We need to know where is the consensus at from council. And that's what tonight's all about. No decision has to be made tonight. You don't have to give me direction at all at this meeting. It might just be something like, you know what, Nate? We do want to talk about this some more, so let's get something scheduled. The other thing I want you all to keep in mind is a budget is a living, breathing document. It is not doctrine. The budget is, when we present a budget to a city council, that is our best guess based on all available information at the time the budget was put together that is where things are going to go. July 1, when we start a new fiscal year, that budget will be wrong. That's the way a budget works. It's the way it works in my house. It's the way it works in most businesses. It constantly evolves, and that's why we have quarterly budget amendments, or when we're bringing an item forward that's going to require a budget amendment, we articulate that within the memo that says this is going to require a budget amendment. So tonight, why I've asked for this is I think I have a pretty good idea of where you're trying to get to, but I don't want to assume. I want to better understand from the council what it is that you're expecting from staff in the budget document. I do know that there have been a number of questions around the solid waste fund. We know what some of those specific questions are. Does going question by question, is that the best use of council and staff's time right now? That's something we can discuss. But I think ultimately what you're asking for is the solid waste fund has raised questions. We want clarity around how this fund has come together, what's behind this fund, what it's used for, why we made the changes that we made. But that's not the only fund that I'm guessing we want to see those types of information on. And so the other items within this memo are a couple suggestions that we could talk about. Again, you don't have to direct me tonight if there's not consensus yet and we want to talk about it more. But two things that I think would help inform discussions around the budget moving forward. I don't know what order I had these in, but one is a fiscal forecast. So right now we're budgeting 2 years at a time, which I'll tell you is still better than a lot of communities. But when we're having conversations in this community about millages or the need to make facility investments or what have you, in order to have those discussions, we need to have some sort of idea how those decisions are going to impact us long term. Again, that forecast is a living, breathing document or spreadsheet. It is something that we have to update each year as our understandings of assumptions change. It will be an ever-changing thing, but if we're going to be trying to make longer-term decisions, we need to have a better picture of what the path could be based on the data that we have available at the time. The other potential recommendation that we could be talking about comes around one of the things I've heard from you all, but also areas in the community, is it comes down to communication, right? Just to put it in its simplest form. There are some ways that we can construct a budget that does more to communicate what it is that we do. I mean, the document that you have all received, along with the line item detail, yes, it's a great snapshot. It's a very simple way to look at, here's the numbers behind the budget. But the what does not necessarily come through clearly. There were things that were in that budget document that I can look at and say, yep, I know why we've made certain recommendations. But as far as, say, what's behind solid waste, or what does the DPW department do, or what does public safety do, or what does the city manager's office do, you know, those types of things aren't in that document. From a truly process standpoint, from a truly statutory standpoint, the numbers are all you need. But what I think is underlying what I'm hearing from you all is you want more communication behind the budget. And I'm trying to identify for myself and the staff is what I'm perceiving, is that indeed what is underlying here? And if that's the case, tell staff to bring back, okay, we want this changed. We want this improved. We can come up, I've already got some things, but I know the staff has some ideas too. We can come back to you and say, from staff standpoint, here's the stories that we would like to be able to tell. This is how we can tell it through the budget process. This is what we need in order to be able to tell that. So that's what this item is all about this evening. You don't have to make any specific decisions tonight. You're not voting on a product. You're not voting on a direction. You're not voting on the budget. That's in 2 weeks, which, again, just to reiterate, that's set by charter. We have to adopt a budget on the 20th. So with that, I think I've hit on all the points that I wanted to hit on.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any public input on this agenda item?
Oh, just a quick one.
Sure.
Again, Jason Benedict, Dorothea Road. I'm a CPA in Minnesota. I think one thing, or sorry, in Michigan also, both states, believe it or not. One thing that I think we would all love to see is just a walk, right? Like, I think we've seen the document, we've seen the line items, we see what the revenue is that comes in, we see what's going out. I think people would love to just see it visually. I don't think that that's a huge ask, hopefully, but I think if we could just get a one-pager, just see it graphically, like what this looks like, where it comes from, and where it goes. That would, I think, answer a lot of questions, just to keep things in proportion for people.
Thank you.
That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you.
If their residents are done.
Yep.
Thanks. I'd like to build on that. One of my favorite artifacts when I first got on council and was learning my way around this kind of stuff there was a image of a dollar bill, and it showed for every dollar of tax money that the city collects, here's how it all gets chopped up. And like the city gets 30 something cents on the dollar to do all of the things that we need to do as a city, right? This much goes to the school district, and this much goes there, and that much goes there. And then as a municipality, we get a fraction of every tax dollar that comes in. That kind of visual, to your point, I also am a visual thinker. I wave my arms around a lot because I think it helps my processor, is very helpful. And I guess while I'm kind of segueing that back into some of Nate's comments, I'd like to touch on the last one that he brought up, which was about communication. And I appreciate that you used the word story. I see three pieces to this budget. There's the line-by-line details, which are like all the Lego blocks laying on a table, right? There's all these things. As part of the budget process, we had that 30-some-odd page Word document, which made sense of those Lego blocks and said, here's the general direction of what we're doing with these kinds of things, and here's what we're going to get, and here's what we're not going to get, and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. I think the third piece, which is there, but we could do more to connect, is the thing up front that says the why. And we had some conversations about this before. We have our master plan, we have an environmental action plan, we have a DDA downtown plan, we have all these other kinds of things, Parks and Rec plan, which gets to the heart of what we care about as a community, right? And so I think having that link from those guiding documents, right? None of those are law, right? We have to do what's on page 18, but it helps provide us the vision of where we want to go. Having a more complete link, or even a more starting of specifically tying these things to the master plan, to the Parks and Rec plan, to the DDA plan, to the environmental plan, that kind of stuff I think would help us say, oh yeah, it speaks to that altruistic nature. And why I believe that this is good, there's one of those speakers, those super smart consultant speakers that goes around and makes $1 million, doing lectures and stuff. This guy named Simon Sinek, he's written books and he has some TED Talks, and one of the things that resonates with me is his thing called Start With Why, right? You start with why. And he tells the story of like the little MP3 players back in the day, and the way that Apple just demolished the marketplace with those. And a lot of that was in how, and I see the analogy here, how some of the other manufacturers chose to market their product. They'd say, this is the Techno Whiz 86. It has this kind of super processor. It has this much thing. The battery is this capacity. All these kind of things. Do you want to buy it? And that's a whole bunch of numbers. I don't know if that's good or bad. Apple comes along and says, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Right? It's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I want 1,000 songs in my pocket, right? And they're communicating the same thing, and some of the competitors had better technology, but they weren't able to frame it in a way that made it compelling to say, I want to have 1,000 songs in my pocket so I can, rock out while I'm walking around town. And so I think some of that is what we need, because we're busy looking at all the techno gizmo gadgety stuff about all the neat things. We need to have that. That's crucial. But part of the role that we play is focusing on that first part and the linkage to the second part, And so I'm just kind of waxing poetic here on that third piece that you talked about with the communication. I think that having that vision, starting with why, making the clear case, this is what our community believes in, and then therefore these are the implications for Parks and Rec and DPW and public safety and city clerk and the library and all that kind of stuff. And then therefore, here are the details of the budget that add up to this, which adds up to that. I think that kind of traceability or aspect could be an asset that I think we could really get a lot of value with. So, whew.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Councilmember Valani?
So building off of what some of my colleagues have said, I think I like the ideas that we've talked about stories and telling the big picture. I think so much of, and I think this is where some of the nuances get lost, we get stuck on the line items. Mm-hmm. And we don't realize how does this, and this is something that we've never charged, at least to my knowledge, we've never charged our directors with doing, so it's not something that is a miss on their part. It just hasn't been the practice. But we are not telling the story of how do these line items create the work that this team is doing that feeds up to, the strategic vision for the city and all of that. And I think if we can start with the forest before we get into all of the trees, I think that will help alleviate some of the concerns that we hear. Because going through 80 pages of line items, a lot of us, we looked at each other like, I don't know anything more about the city than I did before by looking at those line items. And only did we get that understanding through conversations and lots of questions and talking with people. And I think that is something that is missing from our process, is being able to tell the story. And I think about how we approach budgets at my own job. And when I am talking about the expenses and the revenue coming in for my division, I have to be able to talk about who is on my team, what are the key projects that we're working on, what are the challenges that we've had, whether it's resources, financial, how is the work that we're doing related to that larger divisional or strategic goal for the organization, and what are we doing to tell that story. And I think that's something that if we, and it's, it doesn't have to be a big lift, but I think if we can sort of change how we talk about the budget, it will have just a huge impact on how our residents, who are even one step, more removed away from it for the most part, are going to be able to consume and understand that.
Thank you.
I don't know. My turn. I didn't know if Clarence was going. I thought you were looking up. But then I thought he was frozen. I had very specific questions that I can't find the answer to. I've sent emails. Some of the questions, one of them, it's still blank on the public document now that came. And to be asked to approve this budget in 2 weeks, and I can't figure out the answers. I'm trying. I've asked council. I've asked city staff. I don't know how to get those questions. So,
Which one is this? Is this on the?
So part of it is internal services for the $821,000. I kind of want to see what amount is going to each department. What is the work in that department doing with respect to that amount? And then what is the work that they're doing? So how are we calculating that? How is it quantified for each of those special internal services? Solid waste specifically, there's a question about projected capital outlay. It's on our current budget. I couldn't find how we spent projected $261,000, a little bit more than that, on equipment. I looked back at our minutes. I couldn't see anything approved, but it was on that one. And then I sent the question about, we're moving employees between departments. What is their work? How many phone calls were made to the DPW in the last 2 years? I had consensus from council to get that question answered, and I still didn't. There's some other about SIP and SERP I had questions about, but I don't know. We'll be approving those as they come before us, so I don't know if you want me to hold off on those or.
What was the last one you just said?
The SERP, the capital improvement.
Oh.
And capital equipment.
Yeah. So there are a couple things there. So if I'm following the questions that were raised, the SERP is not something that's required to be approved by the council. There's probably some process things that we should look at, but the CIP, the SERP, those are not council documents. Now, it's not uncommon for a council to receive a plan like that, but that's not the budget. The capital improvement budget is something that even there, you're not necessarily approving. You're approving the capital investment for that year. But some of that ties back to this discussion about long-term planning and how do we connect that storyline. So I would tie that one back to communication. As far as, and this is why we need to talk a little bit with council, because some of these questions that come up, it's going to take us time to put these things together. And I can certainly understand the questions that are being raised, but if we're going to be allocating a significant amount of staff time to pull this together, at a certain level, you guys need to tell me to do that, because I don't work for an individual council member, as you all know. And consensus is established at this table from a procedural standpoint. So my guess is we can answer this, right? It's going to take us some time, especially because I just got here. Carl's been here a little longer than I have. We're also, I think, as part of what's happening here is you have a new finance director that is trying to put some things in place based on the best practices that he's used to, which is different than what the community has seen in the past. As far as why we're moving staff, the number of phone calls and all that stuff, we can look into getting that. I'll just be honest, it's a level of detail that I'm not used to being asked for. We can get that, but the best answer I can give you right now is our department directors and finance directors telling council that the majority of this person's job is solid waste. So if there's also a little bit of on guard that I have to play as a city manager too, because if we're going to have to get into a minutia level of detail for each position and where it's allocated and what have you, that creates a bigger issue. So it comes down to managing expectations. There is a point where, so for example, city manager, I don't just do work in the general fund. I do work in every single fund, and there's a process to that. So again, trying to clarify direction, trying to clarify and manage some expectations on what is feasible, and I can't promise council, if the council wants us to pull this level of detail together, I can't promise that it's going to be ready on May 20th. You don't have a choice not to approve the budget. Yes, you could vote no, but if we have 4 people to vote no on the budget, we're in violation of our charter, right? But to come back and say, look, internal services, solid waste, these are our 2 biggest concerns. It's great, all this ideas that you have about telling the story around the budget, but these are the 2 areas that council as a body says we need to focus on. That's all I need to know to say, okay, staff, we need to clarify where this is at. We need to pull some additional detail and justifications together, and we need to do it in a reasonable amount of time. My preference, again, I'm just playing this out hypothetically, I want to bring this back to council before we're doing our first quarter budget amendments, which means, what would that be, fall? No, I would want to do it before really the new fiscal year starts. So we would be having a conversation theoretically before July, as long as it fits in, because there's a lot of things we want to talk about, but that would be the goal. That would be a reasonable timeline for us to give you a holistic picture on internal services and solid waste. My concern, sorry, Councilmember Baker, I can see your hand. I apologize. I can go long sometimes. My concern is that if we have questions around this issue and we're trying to answer this issue at this much at a time, I get concerned that we're just creating a circumstance where we're just creating more confusion.
Okay, yes, Councilmember Baker.
Thanks. I may be going where you're going to go. I'm not sure
I
yet,
don't
but
know. We'll see.
We'll find out. 2 quick thoughts. First, in terms of, you used the city manager's allocation as an example, back to the whole notion of visual management. Perhaps as part of those budget amendments, there was like a little pie chart that says, hey, in the last, since the last cycle, this is where I ended up spending a lot of my time, and that can help give us a visual indication, not to the penny, but directionally, where your time was spent and where the things are coming from and all of that. Something like that, I think, it helps tell that story. I'm back to the tell the story. I don't think that we should be inspecting how many little tops are on each of those Lego blocks, right? It gets to traceability and visibility, but it also gets to trust at some point, right? I'm a big fan of trust but verify, and I trust our department heads to put forth a reasonable budget that understands the needs of our community and understands the constraints that we operate within. None of these are lists to Santa Claus for wishes and gifts and things. These are things that are realistically achievable given the resources that we have. And they know they know their domain better than I ever could. They know their team better than I ever could. And so my inclination is to trust but verify that, okay, you think you need to do this and it makes sense with that larger narrative, then we'll give you the ability to prove this was right, or to have us think about it. Now, next time, you guys said you needed this, but didn't really look like you ended up using it that way after all. Help us understand the gap. I'd rather look at it, understand where the big picture is, how these pieces work, and then begin to put some indicators in place for those pressure points that we're concerned of, solid waste and internal services, so that we can trend those over time, right? I think next year's budget will be far more informed than this year's, and this year's was still one of the best, I think, by having a couple of those little gauges that we can monitor over time, and so that we can have that data coming into the next cycle.
Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah. So just from a process standpoint, next week I'm comfortable approving the budget, as we have it, but knowing that as we get more information, we're able to amend it. But I have some of the same questions Councilmember Patterson has, and I want to find the right balance between questions answered and staff time. It's maybe not a level of detail that is deserving of the amount of staff time, but let's take internal services, for example. We have a big pie, and it was split up somehow between multiple different funds. Someone made that computation somewhere, and to back that up, so it seems like that shouldn't be a large effort to pull that kind of thing. How did we decide to that this fund gets 20%, this fund gets 10%? So I would think I would want to start at least at that higher level. That seems like there's a number on the page, someone computed that somehow. What's the show your work? That's basically what I'm looking for.
And those, just to be clear, those are fair questions.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear, like, I totally understand why there are some questions on these things.
I know you do. Councilmember Black, you've been so patient. Is there anything you'd like to add in?
Just that I think I don't feel knowledgeable about our end state, right? So I don't know, I asked this question, hey, how much are we bringing in? How much is going out? What are our cash reserves? And then what are our priorities? So I deal with budgets every day. I mean, I'm out of town here and we're talking about budget. And for us, that minutia that Councilmember Baker talked about, I mean, we live in that. I mean, we literally do go line by line with some version of zero-based budgeting, because we have to, in order to establish, wants and needs. And then, what do we actually, and even then we get what we get. So, and it's tough, right? Because everybody wants what they want to train and to be prepared to fight and win America's wars and things like that. So I would just like, or I have to believe that there's a way for us to get to some level of simplicity, but I think we have to determine what is our end state, and then, work backwards. So if we say we want to do this, okay, well, let's work our way backwards, and then all of our actions and our priorities and all of those things should be determined. I just feel like we're doing things, but where are we going? And until we say, here's where we want to go, I think that's part of where that trust comes in, and maybe that criticism, because I don't even truly understand where are we trying to go. And so trying to get to there by the 20th, that's gonna be very interesting.
If I may, I 100% hear you, Clarence. I'm choosing to look over here. I don't know if you can, if I'm looking completely the other way for what you can see or whatnot, but this is convenient for my ergonomics, so I appreciate the digital eye contact we can make here. I 100% hear you. Part of where I'm coming from is that, much like you and your role there, I've been living this budget for 15 years now, right? So I have that runtime and that experience to see the macro trends, and to see that, if there's a big shift, we obviously want to catch it, and that's exactly where the line items are for. And I celebrate the fact that we do look at every line item through the lens of what are the big swings, and if there's a big swing, we want the story. I also appreciate where you're coming from in terms of what's the end goal. And that, if I can kind of twist that just or permeate that a little bit to say that's similar to that start with why that I talked about before. It's like, why are we doing this stuff in the first place? And I assert that much of that has been discussed with the community engagement and documented in our master plan, in the various other artifacts that we have, Parks and Rec plan, environmental plan, all these kinds of things. Transportation plan, we passed one of those. That helps explain where we want to go. It's there in those vision statements. It's there in the declaration of principles and priorities. And so what I feel is like we're just, either because of lack of just, you haven't bathed in this thing for 15 years yet, but the linking between, on page 8 of the master plan, we talk about these overarching objectives, and here's how we're making it real. I think that could help connect some of those dots to say that, this is why we're, as a community, valuing and prioritizing this kind of work at this particular time, and yeah, I think that is a part of the communication that we could look forward to getting better at. And in the meanwhile, I was once, a brand new council member as well, and had the same kinds of questions, and I came at it from just saying, all right, this is not the first time the city has passed a budget before. It makes enough sense to me that I could support it, and then I'm going to commit to learning more over time. And I treasure the work of the department heads at the time and the city manager for sitting down individually with me and answering my questions and helping me feel more comfortable so that I can pull up a level and play the role that I was elected to play. So it's fun.
Councilmember Hennan.
Yeah, I want to add on to the plans you listed, the strategic plan that, we finished recently, and I think that as we start to focus on that will help us with the why question exactly. And while I discussed the small details, I did want to circle back, and that I also support a lot of what was said was, the storytelling part of it. I think we're asking you to make the budget sexy. That's all we're asking. But
you got that in the minutes, Victoria? Okay, good.
All right. And and also looking at that multi-year budget sort of thing. And, I do think we need to do a better job with our capital improvement plan, knowing what assets we have, the maintenance schedules, the replacement schedules, so we can make those better predictions on what our year-to-year costs are going to be. So I think, so that sits somewhere in the middle as well.
It's important.
Just real quick. Totally agree with the communication side of it. And Dennis, just to build on that last point, I think that better understanding and why number 2, I think on your list is so important, is having that sort of foundational infrastructure, both just generally, but also, actual infrastructure, helps make the communication piece possible. And why we're doing these types of things. If we can't understand what our sort of infrastructure inventory is, then we're not going to be able to kind of reach those broader goals that you were talking about.
I just have one question. How can we be asked to approve a budget if we can't even articulate like the where the numbers are coming from?
Yes.
Well, again, Councilmember Patterson, you're not being asked to, you're being told through your charter. By your charter,
So we have 2 weeks to get where we need to be so we can understand it?
Your charter gives you no choice. You have to approve a budget by I think it ends up being the 3rd Monday of the month. That thing evolves. What I'm hearing, this is how I would proceed based on what I'm hearing right now. I hear the immediate concerns around the internal services and the solid waste fund. We're going to go back as a staff and we're going to say, okay, what can we put together by the 20th? My suspicion is we're going to be able to provide some level of a higher summary. So up here by the 20th, is that going to give you the detail that I think some of where these questions are at? Now, my guess is no. I could be completely wrong. There could be a whole stack of worksheets that we can get into. That tends to be a level of detail that is not normally at this level. I'm not saying we can't get into that. So my suggestion would be part one is, okay, internal services and solid waste fund. These are where our pain points are right now. Let's get together the items that we can kind of summarize at a higher level. We had a discussion earlier that we're probably going to have a work session, I'm guessing. Maybe we tee it up there, or we just plan on a light agenda, and we can get into that.
If I may.
Please.
Even just a better articulation of like what's in it and how it's used. The solid waste.
That's easy.
And
we can do that, no
so
problem.
So that, just broad brush stroke, higher level, and then we can drill down on things with budget amendments. To your question, I think you're struggling with, how can I say yes to something? And as Mr. Geinser's pointing out, we have to approve by, but that doesn't mean this document doesn't get amended or changed in some way, and that comes through the budget amendment. So it's coming, like the answers are coming, and
I hear you. I've been asking for a month to get
I
these.
know.
And it's very hard to approve in 2 weeks when we don't have the answers. And as you said earlier, don't rush, do it right. And so
Yes.
why are we not doing it right?
Well,
we would just be getting into some editorial back and forth if I was to get into that question. But the way I'm going to proceed, unless you tell me otherwise, is on the 20th, we're going to tee up the workshop. Carl and I are going to give you a presentation of what's in front of you. We will dive into more detail based on what we are able to pull together in the next couple weeks on the internal services and the solid waste fund. We will give a highlight. I don't know, we'll get into the why, but we'll get into a little bit more of the what is in the budget that you're approving. Part two is we want to improve this process going forward. We will pull together, not for that meeting, but we will pull together some recommendations on what the budget could look like that tries to address some of these concerns around communications. That is something that we can map out. It'll be similar to probably what we talked about a little bit earlier. And then again, just in closing, kind of managing expectations. You don't change a budget process and a planning process overnight. It's not even a year-long process. This is something that's going to evolve over years. As Councilmember Baker can probably attest to, he's seen this budget and planning processes evolve over his 15 years on council. The same thing is going to happen here. It's a process of constant improvement, if you will, which we are going to be starting that process essentially. So we will map it out. We'll tee it up as best we can to get as far with these answers as we can. Again, this is just part of, learning our relationship. When we're talking about what could be a significant amount of staff time, I'm going to be coming to you asking for and ensuring that there is consensus on council. I'm not going to assign staff to take on an individual project. If it's something where we're getting enough questions, I'm coming back to you to ask that. So this will not be the first time we have a conversation of this nature on an item that is stirring questions that have policy implications and the pull of time from staff. Get it right versus rushed. I want to make sure that I have the consensus of council to reallocate resources against other priorities.
Mayor, just a question of clarification. Consensus, your definition of that is unanimity? Like
No.
Majority.
I want to know that a majority of you all want this. So if you all agree with what I just summarized, if you just nod your head, I know what you're looking for. If you feel you want to articulate that, please, by all means, put it in a motion. I have no problem being held accountable if I don't come back to you because I didn't meet that motion to a T. But I feel like I understand what your expectation is, at least for the 20th.
I have another question, though. Sorry. I've appreciated Carl coming with fresh eyes and kind of doing some reorganization of funds and maybe fund names. Are there any other big shifts that we should anticipate or be thinking are coming with regard to budget organization or, how he's kind of laying things out.
Well, again, I'm going to tell you right now, we're not making any more big changes in 2 weeks, right? But to the point, to some of the discussion earlier about how we want to see this process evolve over time, I'll try to get you a timeline here at some point, but any additional changes, observations, I would want to have a part of that discussion that, okay, if we're thinking we want to get the budget to looking like this, what are the things that are going to happen below there? We need to create this type of a fund, or we need to end this fund and move it all into here. All those types of things I would like to include in that discussion, so that you guys, again, so we kind of understand there's a general consensus that we do want to make these changes, because we don't want to go and do all that work and then come back and find out it didn't hit expectations and we're redoing it again.
Thank you. Councilmember Hennon.
Yeah, and I think I'm probably reiterating, but my recommended approach to be sensitive to our questions and staff time is answer the high level with the minimal amount of staff time possible, and then you bring that to us, and then if we still have questions, we iterate and go deeper. So we're trying to get to our answers, but without you doing an entire thesis that we don't need that level of detail. So it might take longer, but it will be a better balance of use of time.
Any other discussion from council? Councilmember Black, how you doing?
We're good, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right. Just checking in. Okay. Mr. Geinzer, do you believe that you have direction from council solidly to move forward with this?
I feel comfortable with what I've heard.
Good. I love it. We're going to move on to communications. Ms. Mitchell, who is up first?
Councilmember Baker.
Okay.
Hey, that's me. All right, well, I'll keep this brief. I'm keeping an eye on the clock here. I had this big, long essay and this big, like a song in iambic pentameter to express my gratitude to our public servants, the tremendous work that they do up and down. We've talked about staff and our leadership team and the teams that work heroic across the city in the dead of night, in a frozen winter, repairing stuff and working hard to make sure all of the plans are met and the activities are conducted safely. Fantastic. And happy Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm engaged to a teacher, and I mean this sincerely. Even if I wasn't, I would be extolling their virtues. And so with that, I just want to say the Downtown Development Authority, DDA, meets in a couple days' time on Wednesday. And I'd like to say hooray for the Leia's Day Out. It was their version of traditionally it's a ladies' night out or Leia's night out. This time it was on a Saturday afternoon. Fantastically organized, tremendous fun. I love the participation and interaction from the businesses and the support from all the volunteers. That was terrific. And if you'd like to learn more about other events coming up in our DDA, visit downtownberkeley.com. The Historical Committee wants to celebrate that May is Berkeley History Month. And as part of the celebration, obviously, Berkeley Days is from 1926 when Coolidge was first paved. Celebrations continued ever since. And this is our anniversary month as a city, so that's part of how all of that came together and why May is Berkeley History Month. So come check out the museum. If you have stories to share, I know that they would love to hear it. If you have any artifacts that you'd like to donate or at least give them the opportunity to scan and return, that would be great as well. BerkeleyHistory.com is a great place to get started with that. And I'll close with just a quote from another consultant that I've had the honor, the privilege of working with. Christopher Avery said, "Trust is the residue of promises kept." And to me, a lot of the underlying conversation here is around trust. And I think that, it's earned. Trust is earned. It is the residue of promises kept. You say a little simple commitment, you follow through on the commitment, you earn a couple more points of trust there. And then over time, you have this wealth of positive actions that give you that confidence to say, I have trust in somebody. And again, I don't want to play the old guy card too often, but there's enough residual promises that have been kept by this staff and their predecessors for so many years that I continue to do the trust and verify approach. Our city is on solid ground. We have a lot of work to do. We're resource strapped, and we're doing a fantastic job with what we have. I'm so proud of the staff and what we're doing, and looking forward to embracing the next budget cycle and earning even more trust as we continue down that track record. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hennan.
Yeah, so for the tree board, with DPW, met on Arbor Day to plant a new tree at Bacon Park. And then for those of you wanting a tree this season from the city, ordering information will start coming out in the water bills soon, and then you'll be able to put your name on the list to get a new tree. Then the Zoning Board of Appeals has no meetings this month. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I am looking forward to finally getting to get into this committee on technology and engagement. And I think a lot of the things that we were talking about, in the direction that we're going, have to do with technology and engagement. So we're looking forward to being a part of that. I'll reach out to Director Flora this week. In my time left, I just do want to make a quick plug that it is Mental Health Awareness Month, something that we talk about a lot here in our military, and just want to encourage everyone, whatever mental health awareness means to you, to make sure you're taking some time to make sure that the old noodle is squared away so that you can be your best and brightest self.
Thank you, Councilmember Black, and for your service.
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson.
First, thank you, Councilmember Baker, for explaining all of our gratitude to our public service. We have the best here in Berkeley, and I have to agree with that. Also, though, it is also Nurses Week, so thank those nurses, as well as the educators. So if you wear both hats, you get double thanks, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome. But it is both weeks for them, so thank you for all those that are in those roles. The Planning Commission did meet for the special meeting that we heard tonight. I have a director looking at me. Please look at the zoning draft ordinance rewrite and leave your comments for that steering committee, because if not, well, just do it. So the next meeting is the 28th. It's a long document, right? So get in there early. The Beautification Committee, I got to meet those members for the first time. They had their meeting. They kicked off their summer events. They don't meet too often in the winter, which is, they still care about the beauty. They had some questions about exploring the idea of a mural on the Parks and Rec sidewall there, and planting some greenery and a tree. So that's exciting. Their next meeting is May 22nd at Public Safety. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Villani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'd like to start off by congratulating what is quite literally the last Boy Scout in the room. You came here to celebrate and support one of your fellow Scouts and stayed for the ride. Hopefully, we haven't crushed your interest in local government or civic duty with this lengthy meeting today. For the Berkeley Area Chamber, Berkeley Has Heart Month is starting, so we are celebrating all things art, and a commemorative book is going to be available. This book will be on sale June 8th at the Art Bash. And additionally, sponsorships are available for this book at almost any budget. So go ahead and check that out and sign up to help out this really cool endeavor. Speaking of the Art Bash, the Chamber is looking for both volunteers and sponsorships for the Art Bash in June, as well as the Coolidge Street Art Festival in July. So you can head to the Chamber website to sign up for either of those opportunities. And lastly, for the Chamber, the May Chamber Chat is on May 17th at Chiropractic Lifestyle Studio at 30955 Woodward from 8:30 to 9:30. No need to register. You can just show up. For the Environmental Advisory Committee, the native plant sale is coming up on Sunday, May 19th. So stock up your garden with some native plants after that conversation we had earlier today about how we can be good to our environment there. 10 to 2 p.m. from at the community center parking lot there. And lastly, Sunday is Mother's Day, so Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I know you are not watching this in Delaware, but happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there, and hugs out there to all of those who are either not with their mother or hoping for motherhood in their journey.
Thank you. Pro Tem?
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple things. First of all, thank you, Councilmember Baker, for describing the incredible thanks that we have to city staff for everything that you all do on a day-to-day basis. I'll hit a couple of mine that I'm liaison to specifically, but first off, library. The next meeting will be Wednesday, May 15th at 7 p.m. at the library. Big thank you to Matt Church and staff at the library. I know Matt was here earlier, but I had to head out before 10. So I just want to say that, our library is a gem and a focal point for the community. Matt and the staff have creative and innovative programming. They offer great services and are always looking for ways to improve. So that constant drive and desire to elevate what the library provides for the city, we're incredibly grateful for that. So Parks and Rec, our next meeting will be June 13th at 7 p.m. at the Community Center. And similarly, Interim Director McMinn, thank you to you and all the staff, Parks and Rec, for the programming services that you provide for residents of all ages. I know the facility itself can sometimes be a hindrance, but Parks and Rec programs are of great value and importance to everyone, and certainly contribute to the incredible quality of life that residents in Berkeley deserve. So thank you very much. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Geinzer?
Yes, I do have a few, and I will truncate them. First and foremost, young man in the front row, if you have your social studies teacher, give me a call. I will do my best to get you some extra credit, because I have not ever seen this, especially with such a young member of the Boy Scouts.
And he's still awake.
Kudos. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to council for your patience with me as my first council meeting with you all. Sometimes meetings that go a little longer are necessary, and what most impressed me tonight was, despite how long it was starting to go and how much we were asking from you, the conversation was productive and constructive, which is not always the case in other communities. So thank you very much for that. Again, I appreciate it and look forward to more conversations like that. Two quick things, both good news. We found out this morning that our request for $2 million of funding for our citywide lead service line replacement program, this is through our Representative Stevens' office. They did select it to move it into the next round of considerations, so we'll keep you apprised as we try to advocate on our residents' behalf, our community's behalf as a whole, for federal dollars to support unfunded mandates. The other thing I would just update you all on has to do with the HVAC project. We did just find out this morning that our project, through diligence from our staff and the contractor or consultant that's helping us administer this project, we've been able to negotiate down the price even further.
Nice.
By roughly $67,000. Now, you never know what's going to happen later when you discover things you didn't anticipate, but that's a good sign. And they've already been actively working with DTE and other utility providers to ensure that we've positioned ourselves to maximize rebates. So that is all that I have for you this evening.
Thank you. Attorney Christ?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay, well, I have something. So, Mr. Geinzer, well done. Your first meeting in the books, done and dusted. Good job. Happy 5th anniversary to Chemistry Salon. Their actual anniversary day is May the 15th. And I just want to make mention of the transformation that Morgan and her team did to that space that was a former transition shop. Just have a few Community Choice Awards that were in the Free Press. Best Burger, Vincetta Garage. Best Donut Shop, Donut Cutter. Best Market, Westbourne. And Best Specialty Shop was Monger's Provisions. So these are just the Berkeley highlights. And in anticipation of Berkeley Days, I just want to take a second to just remember and think about Berkeley Days. It's been a longstanding tradition in our community. I think some look at it as the official beginning of summer, for sure. It's a homecoming of sorts. You have a lot of residents and people who used to live here that come back. And neighbors, families, friends, all gathering. And it really has been a special place and event for people to enjoy each other's company, the rides, the camaraderie, the food, everything. So when we come together as a community, I think about all those good feelings. And just this morning, I was at Coffee and Bark, and ironically, the barista brought up Berkley days. She grew up, she was born here, she grew up here, she lives here now with her daughter, and she remembers all the past Berkley days, and she's very excited about the upcoming one and is grateful for the added safety measures and all the things that the Berkley Days Committee has put into place to make this event safe and happy for everyone that comes to our city to enjoy it. So to Denise Downen and her team, I truly see all the hard work that you've done, all the meetings you've attended across the state to learn about how to have a safe event, the collaboration and communication with nearby communities who've been in the same situation. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed, and I could go on, but you get the idea. Thank you, Denise, and your team. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sir, did we have to discuss NOMO?
No.
Okay.
It's not we're after 10, it's not on the agenda. Motion
So
to
moved.
Thank you. Support. Okay. Ms. Mitchell, please call the roll.
Black,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Hennon,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Villani,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes. The Monday, April, what is today? May 6th, 2024 meeting of the Berkeley Council is adjourned.